All right, we're on. I was asked if I'm a metal guy, but today this is a very cherished medal that I will wear for, I don't know. In high school, like when I remember our football team did this, they would wear their medal from like the district. They won their district, which is like our lead into the states or whatever. And the football team wore it to school. And I thought it was the lamest move of all time, but I'm okay to do it today.
Did you guys have Letterman's jackets in high school that you put all your medals on and wore them around? Did people do that where you were from? Because you'd have a Letterman's jacket that weighed like 25 pounds.
Oh yeah,
if you were like a track or cross country runner,
because it was loud.
Yeah,
you'd put
now, Rich.
Go ahead, Jack. I need to clarify with this Letterman situation. This Wisconsin.
I was moving on from the Letterman, so let's finish that point up.
Let's finish that point. So you put the medals.
You sew them onto your jacket.
You take the
medal,
the lanyard off, and the medal got sewed onto your letter, and then you get a reverse letter if you won conference or qualified for state, and so you could fill both sides, and it was just like jingle bells everywhere you went. It was real obnoxious, but we loved it.
I never did that because I thought it was stupid. Did you do it, Bracken? Do you have a Letterman's jacket somewhere?
Oh yeah, it was a big thing at our school. In fact, it was such a big deal that when we moved back to Milwaukee, we cleaned a house, and I threw mine away, and my mom went out to our garbage bin, took it out, and kept it.
You can't throw that.
It was such a big mistake.
Could you imagine if Spartan race athletes did that, like the age groupers that went to just a million races? It'd be like a 120-pound jacket after a few years of racing. It would be impressive.
They give little jackets.
I mean, they kind of
little medals they give out at meets for that exact purpose.
For the jacket. Okay, so
they didn't even give us ribbons with they didn't come on any sort of lanyard. They would just hand out a bag to the coach of your little quarter or $50 size medals, and they give it to you for the sole purpose of they'd sew it on. Yeah.
So with the athletes who played sports that people cared about, would they make fun of you guys for having your conference medals for your cross country meets?
No, the wrestlers put their pins on it in their medals. It sounds really weird now saying it out loud, but the culture was there. That's what it was. It's just what you did.
No, it's not. I didn't do it. I thought they were stupid. I just said that. But a lot of kids did it.
This is going to sound bizarre. Maybe I wasn't self-aware. I didn't know I was the joke.
Couldn't be.
I was so cool. You have no idea. No.
Wait, that wasn't a thing where either of you grew up, Jack or Rich?
No. I mean, Letterman jackets, our football team was 1-12. They were they shouldn't have been promoting that they were even on that team there. So, but yeah, what I kept are all the bibs. Anytime that I went in a race, I've got a little box full of all my bibs still 5 feet to the left of me ever since I started racing. So,
oh wow,
those mean more to me.
I've got a shoebox of bibs.
Me as well.
No, bibs were never. We had Letterman jackets, but they weren't for cross country and track. It was the main sports. I had one because I played a real sport. I played basketball, so I had one. But the football team had it, and it was just there was no add-ons. I don't believe it was. You had your jacket, and that was enough. In New Jersey, which was we were on the border in New Jersey. Jack takes his headphones off, rustles around freaking. We'll give a little. There we go. The New Jersey would put their events on this. They would put things on the sleeves.
We had chevrons. Every time you made a varsity sport or an all conference team, you got an extra patch to put down the sleeve.
That's kind of cool.
Well, what we're getting at is send your mod shirt and your medal to Mrs. Cracker and have her sew it on there for you. Send it back, I think is what I'm trying to get at.
We do need some OCR hybrid Letterman jackets. Would we call them Letterman? Would they be the same?
We were just letter jackets. We didn't say Letterman.
I don't think we had that type of sophistication either. I think they were just the jackets that the football team wore.
Okay, this is a tangent. Oh, look at that, Jack.
My goodness. How many are there?
Did you write your times on the back of those bibs? I wrote a note on the back of all my bibs so I could remember.
I did not.
That's a great idea.
I thought I did on a few. Like I didn't realize it till it was too late. But some of them I know for sure that like I wrote them on. Like the first time that I broke 5 minutes in the mile, like I have that and stuff. And I've got a lot.
Retro. You think you could retroactively go back? I bet you remember what time you ran in all those races.
I remember.
I bet you have that. I bet you have that.
I remember almost
go back
that spreadsheet's up right now in a tab on his desktop.
No, it's not. Oh, all right. Okay.
It's not up, but it exists.
He's a tab guy. I know it.
I'm a tab guy. So I got one right here. This was my my first ever cross country state meet, and on the back of it says 21:57. And there's my place time bib.
Would you guys run a 7K?
No, I got fourth. I got fourth to last in the state in cross country as a freshman. And I looked at it. So here's another stat thing. Imagine that. I looked it up. Time over time between like the first reported result versus as a freshman versus your best one as a senior. And in New Hampshire, I took like 9.5 minutes off my first cross country time. I was like 26:50 something. And then on that same hilly course, I was like 17:19 at the end of senior year. So
I'm impressed.
But
honestly, I'm too distracted. What's going on with your ear?
My ear?
Yeah, your headphones not fit you anymore?
Oh, no. These things just, I don't know. They're shitty headphones.
I can't get over seeing your little earlobe poke out. It looks obscene.
We're glad that your ear is okay.
But congratulations.
Glad you care about that. Hold on. I have my
progress.
Spartan coin right there. That
was slow-mo for dramatic effect.
Yeah, you're frozen now, Jeff.
That's gonna be that's the thumbnail. Are these what they would look like for Wisconsin? Are they like that size?
They were that size state. Roughly.
Yeah.
I never
maybe you did
qualified
get
for
these
state
things.
cross country.
What?
Yeah, my senior year, I got outleaned for the final individual qualifier spot.
Your team.
You guys want to know a fun fact about me? We need to get to. We really go off the rails quickly now. It's like every episode.
These are the rails.
This whole episode is just going to be Rich and Bracken talking about themselves.
That's true.
And how great.
Jack,
your internet's real bad.
This is tough today. You might need to reevaluate something.
There's a transformer situation happening.
I was trying to talk about myself, guys.
Let's do it.
All right, Kurt, you were saying about yourself?
I did make cross country state all 4 years in high school, even as a freshman.
Mm-hmm. Quick side. Let me. I don't mean to interrupt. Your school size.
Yeah.
In terms like how many sizes did you have in terms of categories?
3 in Wisconsin.
3. What were you?
We just had Division 1, 2, and 3. We were the big division. Big division 1. We had like
nice freshmen going to states.
Well, ours is a reverse. One is big for us.
Yeah.
We were
large,
winners,
medium, small,
which just makes sense. We were like AA, AAA. That was it. And cross.
Well, I'm not bragging because you'll see why in a second. So my last 3 years of cross country, I ran the exact same time on the exact same course as a sophomore, a junior, and a senior to the second. And I don't think any of us, even as calculated as we are, could do that if we tried. I ran 16:48 3 years in a row. And the first year I was healthy. The last 2 years I was injured going in, so I wasn't able to run as much. But nonetheless, I think I have to be the only person in history in maybe any state to run the same time on the same course 3 out of their 4 years in high school.
Was
I
that
can't
at
imagine
Ridges?
Yeah, at Ridges.
That's a slow course. That's a tough course.
It's a slow course. It's hilly and slow, but nonetheless.
Which makes it even harder to run the same time.
Right. Anyways, I did that 3 years in a row.
When you were a sophomore, were you like, I'm going to be that dude. I'm going to be state champ. And then
I was the fastest freshman in my state meet. And then as a sophomore, I was like the 6th fastest or something. And then I thought, I'd go on to really change lives. Like my dad was state champ in high school, small division. In cross country. So I really had big shoes to fill. I never filled them. There was a home video of me running and winning the Brown County meet as a sophomore. And I won by I ran like 16:31. And somebody's like, wow, what what a champ you got on your hand. And he goes, yeah, he's probably going to be state champ next year. He goes, my dad was bragging to some random guy that best place I ever took was 35th.
Gonna get a scholarship to state. Yeah,
did your dad show up to cross country meets in running shorts?
No.
All right. I didn't know if he was that kind of ex-runner or not.
No, jeans.
Yeah. All right, so let's do a rundown here. High school 5K cross country PRs.
Okay.
Flat or on the state meet course?
Well, a PR is the fastest time you've ever run.
We're going Hyrox style, where we're not going to care about like what you do from course to course.
I get it.
Yep. Okay.
Actually, let's do your slowest time, your first time, and then your PR.
Okay. I was my freshman year. I was a 26:50 or a 26:55 for my first ever time on the course. Got down. It's
not very good.
How many times did you stop and walk?
I brought a water bottle. I brought a water bottle with me.
Every shade tree.
I love that.
Every shade tree.
And shade to shade.
This was like a noon meet, so I had to hide shelter.
Reapply at the 3K mark.
I had like, I don't even remember. I might have had like the Tracy McGrady basketball shoes. I didn't even have running shoes.
You had T-Max?
It was bad. So yeah,
T-Max were about as cool as it got.
Yeah, tell me about it. Got him on a deal.
So why were you?
Kohl's, I remember.
So why were you that slow to start, and why did you get so much better? May I ask? If you had to figure it out, because even like us D-trained, I know we all jumped in as freshmen way faster than that without being conditioned.
He hadn't figured out photosynthesis yet.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, my course, it had like 300 feet of elevation gain. I pulled New England's and New Hampshire state champs and stuff like that. But I had never run on a hill or anything. I'd only played really baseball. I played soccer, so you'd think I would have had like a little bit of endurance there heading into it. But yeah, I just like walked and just didn't care. And then by the end of the year, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And that state meet was the first time that I broke 22, and I was like, oh, I almost averaged a sub 7-minute mile, and I thought I was the man. And then by senior year, I got it down to 17:19. But my overall high school cross country PR was 16:47 on a different course.
You're gonna win the best and the greatest improvement, I think, unless Bracken laid a couple eggs.
No,
that's
I
like
went 1936.
10 seconds. Yeah.
I went 1936 to 16:54.
I had a faster high school PR. Yeah.
Yep.
Man, how about that?
I don't want to hear what Rich has to say. I'm a little
never qualified for anything.
Really? That's wild. What happened? What would happen in cross? Would you not run in the summertime? I'm just hooping.
Every second past about 4.5 minutes is a severe degradation in talent for me. I can't break 50 in a 400, and I can't break like, I don't know, probably 9:30 in a 2 mile. I have like a 7-minute window of talent. It's a very specific skill set that's very mediocre that I'm bringing to the table here. I need to pull in as many outside skills as possible to be any good at anything.
Were you running in the summer?
No,
that's
my freshman year. I ran 100. My freshman year, I ran 150 miles to get the 150 mile club T-shirt, and my dad said if I got 150 miles, he'd buy me the Nike Waffle XCs for racing in that fall. And they had a sweet gold and red color, and we were maroon and gold school. So that summer, I ran the most, 150 miles that summer.
Did you see the post, Bracken? We got tagged in the other day by one of my former athletes, Kristen Sincati. Her 2 kids wanted sweet running shoes, like expensive ones. And she said, well, okay, that's fine, but you have to run a mile for every $1 that these shoes cost. So pick whatever you'd like, but you have to run a mile by she put a date on there. And I was like, that is brilliant. And they both picked like real shiny, sweet shoes. So I'm sure they weren't cheap. It's like, I think she hacked the system.
That's good.
Did.
It's good parenting.
So I maybe had the smallest improvement and the worst PR out of this.
Did you get those off of East Bay?
I had the smallest improvement.
My improvement.
No, Rodez's running shop.
Gotcha.
All right, Kirk, I'll go. I think my first race, I was under 18. I was like 17.
Prodigy.
I was a freshman. Like first
sophomore. I ran 205 as a freshman, and the cross country team was like, you gotta come out.
Did you have a beard already? Were you one of those kids?
Rich can't have a beard.
I don't have a beard now. I ran that 205. They told me my dick would get bigger for cross country. I signed up for cross country, dropped football, came out there, ran 17 something, was like the third guy on our team, 17 high. And then
results
like
were exclusive.
What's that? Yeah. Still waiting on it. 1601, I think I never got under 16 in high school.
Really?
That's shocking.
Yeah.
Weren't you like a 9:10 2-miler or something?
4:14 miler, like 9:30 something 2-miler.
4:14 in high school?
That's a stud.
Okay. 1600 or mile?
That was
1600.
Get that out of here. You're a 4:15 miler.
There you go.
We didn't have the mile.
16.
No one did.
We
were 1600 guy.
So yeah,
I broke 18. I broke 18 for the first time my first meet of my senior year. And you did that when you were like a 13-year-old boy with a squeaky voice.
I was a sophomore.
15.
I was a sophomore. And I qualified for state that year too. Yeah.
Wait. High school PRs, you went 4:14 and 9:10?
No, I wasn't 9:10. I was like 9:30. I'd only done a 2-mile.
You must have been like top 50 ranked if you're a 4:14, because we had a couple guys in state who were right around there.
I have really bad. I could have gone to I got letters from all the schools on the East Coast. I just had really bad grades. So like someone was like, well, coach was like, hey, I got waitlisted, and the coach called me there. Was like, you can get in here. It's fine. You can come down. I was like, oh, okay, that's great.
4:14 won my state meet in the mile my senior year. That's a stud.
I was third.
Matt Paulson won 4:12 for us.
And the guy who won our meet ran 4:09. Craig Miller when he was a sophomore. Then Wisconsin went out to Wisco.
Yeah. Was he a national champ?
Didn't he? Foot Lockers, right? Or
no,
that's Craig Forey's that I was thinking of.
He's a New Jersey kid. He in NCAA bracket, you're saying? He
Craig Miller
really good. I don't know if he ever won. I'm gonna look this up.
Wow. You were really good.
You guys keep talking.
And I was off of like 25 miles a week running and I played basketball in the winter.
So did you think then going into college, you were going to be a sub 4 miler once you got like your college training going?
Carl's going crazy. I didn't have any looking back, I should have been, but I had no expectation going in. I didn't have very good guidance. Like my coach isn't very good. The program I went to was like mediocre. My parents didn't know anything. So I didn't really know what I was capable of. But looking back now, like I think I definitely should have been. And I didn't like I wasn't ready to be in college and run as and take it and be like really, really good. So, but I think I could have.
So Rich, Craig Miller got down to 4.78 and he was a 1350 guy, so could have done
it. Sean Roberts is
he would have been sub 4 today.
Yeah. Kirk, let's do it.
Let's hear it, Kirk.
Mine's unimpressive. I had a tough last 2 years in high school. Like I was just injured, so it never came through. But I ran 18:23 my first meet. But then 2 weeks, my first meet being like I showed up to practice on a Friday and we had a meet the next day because I quit the soccer team in the beginning of the season. I went to cross country, so I wasn't running. So I ran 18:23, and then 3 weeks later, I ran 17:04 at the Green Bay City meet. And took third in the city of Green Bay, which was a big deal at the time. But then my PR in cross country was only 16:27. So talk about not very improved. I kind of peaked as a sophomore and then just basically got back to the same fitness as a junior and senior. I bulged a disc in my back my junior year and didn't run 3 weeks of the middle of the season. I was in the pool. And then my senior year, I had a stress fracture and didn't start running until the second week of practice. So like, it was one of those deals. I just never, and then track, I was healthy for most of the years, but so I never got that much better in cross.
What'd you end up doing on the track in high school?
Nothing impressive. 954, 431, 158. I made a big jump my freshman year of college, like big jump.
You weren't too much faster than me. That's surprising. Wow.
Those are like Kent's numbers too. I think once a runner, the front of once a runner. It's like, you know how I know you were 432 flat?
because everybody was.
Everyone was
32.
But like from my senior year of high school to freshman year of college, I was a 413 true miler in 1 year, and I went down to 155 low and 415, maybe was it 10 or so in the 5K. Like I really jumped, but it's because I was healthy for the first time.
Just got healthy.
And running more than 15 miles a week. Yeah, that was helpful,
right.
Believe it or not.
So how's this for a progression? High school, I graduated 427 and 1654. College, I ran the equivalent of 414. And 2 weeks after that, ran 1639 in the 5K.
More than 7 minutes.
I went from 1654 to 1639 in 5 years of college. Wow. Because we were running 20 to 25 miles a week and like 3.5 speed workouts a week.
What happens during those 5Ks? Like, did you like,
I sold out
my pace right at 1620, or did you go out in like 430? And
you go out in like 445, like every cross country meet does. And then
no, this was a road race. This was post Nats road race. Okay. I got on a pack and ran for the win and sold my soul. I was dry heaving for like 45 minutes afterwards at 1639, kicking in for the win.
So maybe you're the most improved, really, when it comes to endurance performance.
I cut a minute on my 5K post collegiate, but I mean, people laugh and they're like, "Oh, you're not a bad distance runner," but compared to the people I was around, I ran 152, 357 and 1640. Like the distance was really not a thing for me. So I had to put in like
short distance.
VDOT would have to recalibrate the entire system for you.
Yeah, my curve is really bad. So it took 8 years to break 16 in the 5K.
You're kind of like how you'd be one of those 100-meter runners who just can't stretch it to the 400
to 150.
Like they'll have like a 10.2 and then a 55. It's like,
yeah, but I can't run a good 400 either. I guess it's really specifically mediocre.
Did you run cross in college?
I ran my first and my last year.
Okay, and then they let you just do mid distance, so you're basically like a sprinter.
We train like 400 guys. Yeah. I ran 26:32 on Kirk's cross country course, which is as fast and as short as an AK can be. And outside of that, my PR was like 27:15 in an AK on an equally flat course, but not quite as fast. So yeah, I just wasn't me. Still isn't.
But 52 minutes and change you can do. That's for sure.
51 and
change. Look at us. Come on.
So what
would
happen if you guys?
Way to go, guys.
Real quick, what would happen if you took every single person who, plus or minus a year or two of you who ran high school cross country with you back then in your state, you all lined up on your course right now at your current age? How would you do?
Probably the same. I still wouldn't qualify.
You're saying all the runners
everybody
did run.
I would say like 90% of them are inactive now.
Oh, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Kirk, I talked to Matt Gruss this weekend.
Oh, you did? Yeah. He ran age group.
And he had something to say about I would beat every one of the guys I ever ran with in college right now.
He messaged me on Facebook about that after he heard it. Yeah. I stand by that, Matt.
He's a 358 miler, and he's now a national record holder in age group rowing. Oh, and he was at Hyrox this weekend. So he went from 147, his first Hyrox. He did age group this time. So open. He didn't do pro weights, but he went 103. Right.
Oh, nice.
At 42 years old. So he cut off 44 minutes from Hyrox 1 to 2.
Wow. From pro, because he's the one who had that real rough row after like sleds and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. He told me he wasn't happy with me.
I messaged him.
I'm not backing off. I'm not backing down. I'm confident in the work I've done. I told him, I said, Matt, I'm confident in the work I've done. So I'm not backing off.
He said that too. He said, Kirk's high on his fitness right now. And I love it. But you tell him, if I ever stop running 4 miles every other day and start training, I'm going to take him down.
I love it.
Listen, you got to put up or shut up, Matt. Oh, he looked great out there. He had a great race. I was pumped. And I got to chat with him a little bit.
He's a real athlete.
He must have won that. He won that age group?
No, because you had what's his name?
Oh, Hinman. Hinman was there.
Hinman?
Someone else didn't someone beat Hinman?
Well, what's his name? Polson.
Oh yeah, Mark's good.
Oh right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Mark is really
Polson
good.
was 102.
Mark's like an elite athlete.
He went 64 in pro this year.
Yeah. What was his time? He was one of the first out of the top 12 in DECA. I think came at like 14, 15.
Like, he was like 31.55 or something, and I got in at 31.47. So he was right on the doorstep for DECA.
There are 2 people under 60 this weekend at Chicago. Yeah.
Well, they had no other option, right? There was no like sub elite race. It was like, you want to run, you run age group. So I get it.
Right. So Jack and Kirk, did you guys listen to BK and Hunter?
Of course. Yeah.
How was it?
Bracken was great.
Yeah. Hunter had some comments that people were not fans of, is what I was picking up on.
Oh, like what? Did
I
you write
don't
down?
know what they were offended
I haven't
on,
listened.
but there were several.
There was a couple comments about the way people looked, especially in the women's
He talked about the
field.
female body types, which he
made
did
them
with
loud.
the purest of intentions.
Yeah.
He talked about them as if you were talking about the guys. And in the moment, I was sitting there thinking, no, we wish we had a 3-second delay here because that's not going to go over well.
You might have a point, but you can't. You just don't. You just can't do it.
And several times he's like, I don't even know who this is. Like the way.
Well, that's the girl who's going to win.
that.
So maybe you should know her name.
He didn't know who
Oh, he
Michaela was.
He didn't know Michaela. Yeah, he
Michaela.
should have done it. Michaela.
The best part though was that he started by saying, "Listen, I've been doing a ton of research. I spent the last 48 hours researching this," and then we get to start line. He's like, "I don't know what that is." That's your world record holder.
You probably the world record holder. Yeah, she was at the European Championships. Probably should have.
So yeah, people either loved it. It was Hunter. People either loved what he brought or they hated what he brought.
Were you?
I watched the race in a Menards parking lot in my truck. Told Bracken this yesterday. I sat in a Menards parking lot for 90 straight minutes with my phone on the dash watching the races because I was so enthralled.
What's Menards?
Dedication.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Home Depot, but for a slightly smaller, and it's the Midwest.
Yeah, the Midwest version. Got it.
Like an Ace Hardware.
Got it. What color?
No, bigger than Ace. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Stop that.
Menards is legit.
That part of the country.
Yeah, it's every bit as big as Lowe's or Home Depot. It's just I think it's a Midwest chain.
Gotcha. Got it.
So the answer is yes. Watched it.
So where do you want to start? You want to start on?
Can we talk about you guys first? Let's actually talk about you first.
Can Bracken stand up real quick?
Let's talk about you guys first.
I'm moving today again. I ran for 45 minutes yesterday. Uphill though. I couldn't run flat.
Look at this sweet shirt that Bracken has. I think we need to talk about the kit that you guys were wearing.
Yeah, well, let's just shout out Tim Lambiris. He made these for us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Now, 4 people messaged me saying, "Can you make Running Public singlets we can buy? Because those mod ones are sweet."
Mod ones are sweet. They got the RB on the back for Rich and Bracken.
Mm-hmm.
Get that out of
Is that the actual jersey? Or did you get like another?
Yeah,
another
I just
shirt
threw a jersey
toss
over
it on
the long sleeve.
That was my look in like 8th grade, 9th grade. Just tossing a jersey on top of a t-shirt, wear it to school.
White t-shirt.
I think we all just need to give a quick hand to Mod, guys. Why don't we give a quick hand to Mod?
The colors
Mod
pop.
in the business.
The colors did pop. Thank you for everybody out there who's yelling at us, yelling Mod toward us. People who listen to the show, really appreciate it. It was fun, man. That was a lot of fun.
I told Kirk it felt like a home meet.
Really?
It kind of
it felt like an indoor track home meet.
I would say that's a fair assessment. Bracken, what are your thoughts?
How many autographs did you guys sign?
0.
No cleavages or panties.
Have you ever
or
signed
anything?
it? No, not this one. Did
Rich? What did it take
for OCR?
Rich, what did it take for Mappy Davis to put on your jersey? Because I saw a scandalous picture with him wearing that thing.
Did you
What's the
guys
story
see
behind that?
I can't believe you raced with his nasty chest hair still caught in your singlet.
There was definitely chest hair on my chest from his chest on race day. I didn't even know.
Be that
I was at the
special
dinner.
Patreon member.
Yeah, we can add another tier. I was at the dinner. Had no
That
idea
cost
he
us
sent me those photos yesterday.
Minimum 35-40 seconds. The fact that he wore that and greased it up beforehand.
Just touch it.
How far off were we? Okay, I'm gonna look up these. We were the fourth, fastest all time.
We were like 10 seconds off third.
There was some confusion because the announcer was saying it was a new world record, and then people were confused. So what was that about? Because I think we had discussed the world record was 48 and change beforehand. Yeah. So how did that come up? So it's not a world record, but it was an age group world record, or it was confusion, or what was it?
Hyrox was hyping up the crowd, and he's standing there going, the world record is in reach. And I looked at him and I smiled and shook my head, and he went like, and he like kept talking and everything. But then people ran with that one and like, and there it is. And it was a new North American record. But the word had already been said, and I already had updated my Instagram profile. So it's just sticking.
And that's where it's staying. And it was also, I think he was trying to compare it to the European Championship time, which it would have been faster than the European Championship.
We're the European champs.
That was. We are. That's how this works in this sport. So yeah, we smoked Tiago and Ronkovic. They were like 52 flat, crushed them. Did you compare the splits to? I looked at Tim and Sandy's. They have the record. They're like 40.
There's legitimately fast,
and they came out really, really hard. They faded toward the back. Like our station work was faster than theirs, like the last 3 or 4 stations, but they just like put a monster gap.
They ran hard from the start.
Yeah, and they had to run hard for sure. That's kind of what that's going to take. They could probably
and they hit the sleds hard. They sled push. Mm-hmm. You could tell they just sprinted it down
under 120
and back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are not far behind Hunter and Hogan either.
Mm-hmm. No, another crack at it.
30 seconds
for sure. Definitely.
We were doing predictions, what we thought everybody's time would be, or what your time would be, and I would like to say that I was the closest. In case you guys are wondering, I said somewhere low 52s. You guys didn't even give yourself that much credit. I'm going to take it.
Take that
Team
win.
VK. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You guys surpassed expectations then, hey? A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I was going to crack worse, and I thought he was going to have to do more, even more work, and then that would lead to us just like hurting all the way in. But I got kind of a masterclass in how good the top end of Hyrox and like hybrid racing really is. His work rate was really fast and impressive on things. Like his sled pull was so aggressive, and it was impressive to watch. And he never faded, obviously having finished up with 100 straight wall balls.
But the way you managed your energy was like right on. It was exactly what we needed, right? Like that was going to be the kind of thing that would kind of swing us either way, is if that would happen. But you managed your work rate appropriate. Mm-hmm. You let every run for exactly what you needed to do, and it surpassed what we thought we could really do on time. So it was a team effort. It worked
perfect. Yeah. I think we executed as well as we could have. What do you think we left on course? Like best case scenario, 10 or 15, maybe 20 seconds that day?
Yeah. Jack, was that going to be your question? Like where we could make up time?
Yeah. Sort of. I was going to talk about the wall balls after, but you finish your thought.
I don't know. Right. I have no idea where we could have made up any time.
I made Bracken, not to direct you to our podcast, but to direct you to our podcast, The Running Public. We probably broke it down for about a half an hour. We talked about the race specifically, what went well, what didn't, where room for improvement. I don't know if it's been released yet, but that is on our Training Tuesday. We kind of dive deep into your guys' race specifically. And we can totally do it today too, but just saying, if people want to get down to the real splitting hairs, we did that a little bit, didn't we, Bracken?
Yeah, I talked about where my fitness held up and where it didn't. We didn't talk our strategy too much. I think our strategy was about as sound as you could get. I think our burpees could have been faster.
You guys were moving on those.
We were moving.
Flying.
We got sloppy at the end.
Were you like a minute and a half?
We were weaving through people at the end, and I was watching them, and I switched with Rich, and then looked up, and the finish line was like 10 feet ahead of us. He did 2 burpees, and we were done. It's like that was a useless. I didn't realize where we were because I was looking at the crowd. I think we could have been like 115 there, but you're splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah, we could have probably been a little bit more aggressive on the skier, but again, it was just like we just need to chill here. We need to chill on the sled push
for sure. I was like crawling on the sled.
Yeah, we didn't need to go crazy there.
But everything else, I think I could have been a little more aggressive on the runs. But that was already high end of what I thought was possible. I thought I would have blown up if we'd have gone any faster.
and that's hindsight too. Like that's something in the moment. It was like, this is where we need to be. And we pushed pretty hard in the last 2 runs. Maybe there's on that day, 10, 15 seconds, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. All the rest would come down to my fitness.
Yeah. We kind of knew that what that was.
You couldn't have shaved any time on like the wall balls or because Rich went unbroken on that. But one thing that I was going to point out on that. So Rich, your split was 306, if I'm remembering right on that.
Yeah.
The wall balls. Okay.
Yeah.
So Miriam Van Roer, she went 254. That's a 7% difference. How's that possible?
It's a 9-foot target.
Went unbroken. Like how can someone do it quicker?
It's a 9-foot target.
Yeah. It's the only way. She just quicker reps.
Comparatively, if she
range of motion,
but if she's 6 inches shorter than you, it's relative the same height.
No, it's a 6-inch advantage to her.
In terms of range of motion. And it's
a 1 foot difference. It's a 1 foot difference in target, but a 6-inch difference in height.
But if you're going 6 feet versus 5'6", that's 90% of the height. If you're going 10 feet versus 9 feet, that's 90% of the height. So it's the same ratio. It's just 10%.
I don't think your body cares about ratio. It cares about actual difference it's going.
Time the ball's in the air.
Yeah. It's air time.
Okay. Yeah.
She's actually like 5'2". So like
that's what I'm saying. Like she's shorter. So I don't know.
No, this isn't taken away from
Jack is getting at the fact you could have done better, Rich.
I think so.
I want to know how it's like. How could Rich have possibly gone faster than unbroken? That's
cycle rate. Like if I was like,
she absorbs
she can drop faster. She can drop and pop faster than I can. So I think it's just like actually the mechanical piece of it, which again is an advantage for her in her size and just like her stature. Like she's very strong. But with very limited range of motion can really drop and pop really fast, where I was trying as hard as I could to do that, but just her ability to do that exceeds mine.
The crazy part is she did it at the end of a full.
Yeah,
that's wild. That's wild.
We had the same ball weight too. Yeah.
To break down just for comparative now, if you do look at the actual world record, not the pretend world record you guys were given that day. About 3 minutes, let's just call it roughly 3 minutes difference. Is that all in the run or was it chipped away everywhere? Like the difference between the world record and what you guys did, is it these guys are running 5:30 pace and you were running 5:50? Is it, I assume it's mostly the run and very small on some of the stations. Is that it? Comes down to that?
It was like 30 seconds on the ski, like 30, like
our ski was not accurate either.
You don't think so?
No, because I dawdled into the station a little bit. I think it's my timing chip coming in.
Oh, maybe
because we were 345. Callie and I were 335, and I was rowing 5 seconds per 100 faster than I was with Callie, 5 to 8, and you were rowing 15 faster than Callie was. What were you skiing at?
Like 140.
And I was hitting
139.
And I was like
44,
43.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't add up to 345.
They must have been doing like 132s.
Yeah, they were cranky.
Crushing. And they pushed the sled. They probably gained 20 seconds on us on a sled push. But then
each run probably took 15 seconds per run minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most of it on the run and then a few stations.
First 3 stations.
But the majority of that time gap is on your the ability to run. Is what I'm understandanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just
if you look at
flaw
them,
with this.
They're the 3 and 4 ranked guys in the world. Ish. They're 2 top 5 guys. The next 2 is who is second place there in that?
That's Tom Hogan in overall. It's
overall,
Tom Hogan,
Hunter and Hogan.
Hunter.
So you have the best guy and a top 10 guy. And then the next one,
it's Holger Kroner, who was in the top 15, and he's like a 149 guy, I think, and he's young still, so he's fast.
Yeah, so 2 top 15 guys, and then you had Rich, who's a top 10 guy, and me, who's not a top 15 woman right now. So like it's clearly just the odd man out of that list is what lost us time. I couldn't run like them, and I couldn't work like them. So I think if you have 2 Riches in there, you're looking at on that day, I would guess 49, 50, probably 49 high.
Could have been close. Yeah. That's the flaw with this. style of racing that they put together is that you're just bound by whoever the slower runner is.
Mhm.
And and it's just like a strange way to put together a team, I guess. Like, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on this format where it's like you can split the work on the stations, but you can't split the work on the runs?
I think it makes sense to make you do the whole thing together.
Not a true relay.
I like it.
I like it too.
Interesting.
I think it should be a full relay.
I like the
this as
Deca
two
relay
different
style.
options.
I'd prefer it being the Deca relay style where it's just first, run your first 1,000 together, run your last 1,000 together or whatever, and then split up anything the rest of the race how you want. You could have some CrossFit monster do every station and you're just doing 8 by 1,000. That would be interesting.
I don't understand the first and last 1,000 together because I don't know of any other race that if you're doing relay style, you have to start and finish. Like that to me muddies the water. Like if we're doing relay, I want to see the two highest pinnacles of each. Like I want to see Bubbles and Rich together or something like that. Like Corning and Gaudet or something. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see you having to kind of muddy the water slightly because you still have to be able to. Like the station guy can't sell out fully because he had to run into it. So I actually don't like that.
Yeah,
more
I'm
than
open
I
to
don't
that.
like the Hyrox.
I think it would be more inclusive for people to come and experience Hyrox if you could get people from varying degrees of running ability to then like kind of like it would bring people in. It's like, oh, I'm not really ready for an 8K, but I can push that sled, and then they could get in, maybe be inspired to improve on their running a little bit. Right now, it's like you have to be pretty freaking close to the same.
I just don't like the fact that it's going to require no skill in one whole half of the race for both participants.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. The only way you could possibly make it a true relay, in which I would support, is like, okay, each you got to do 4 runs and 4 stations, figure it out. Pick your stations, pick your runs. Yeah. But we still required to do both sides of the Hyrox coin.
They should just make it official for a relay, like first run and ski erg, and then you take off, and then second run sled push, and then you take off.
Sure.
That would be a relay. The team race, though, of doing it together, I really do like because I think it's the easiest entry for people. Like the way how regular Hyrox is rewarding afterwards. Doubles we enjoyed during while working almost as hard as we could work. Maybe Rich wasn't working as hard as he could work because he had to chill with me on the runs, but I was working as hard as I could work, and I found enjoyment during on almost every single station. So I think to the outsider coming in, it's an easy point of entry. I do like that about it.
I think the other good thing is you're not as slow as your lowest link or your slowest link, like you'd think off the top of your head, because the better person can just do more work and that'll balance it out. You've got the strategy option there rather than, well, this leg is going to run a 5% slower and that's what I'm stuck with. You can trade off.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes mixed doubles though, Kirk, to kind of put a thorn in your side of the argument, the top 2 times are from female athletes that aren't in the sport. They're just runners. And then the men come in and do all of the station stuff.
Yeah.
And so like that's like let's say from that perspective, it's like, all right, well, that's stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
So I have a question for you, Rich, because I was telling you I told Kirk this, but Lisa videotaped
at the camcorder out.
Lisa videotaped all the stations as best she could. And I had in my mind how it felt I was working, which was very fast the whole time. And then I back off slightly on some things, just like a half notch. But when I watched it back, you were working on film. It came through. You were working fast and aggressive. And I looked sluggish on most of the stations. And so it was very interesting to see that, like, the disparity between our fitness levels. When I decided to back off at all, it went from like an 8 to a 6 in appearance of effort. Whereas you always look like you're at like a 9 or above. You were just aggressive within the stations. Yeah. So with all that, rewatching it, I realized we didn't put out the way I thought we were on race day. So that for me was like, it started at like an 8.5 effort, like an 8.5 on the ski erg, and then probably 8.5 on the push, and then like 8.5, 9 on the pole. And then from there on out, from probably burpee, broad jump, run on, I was racing at max capacity. Could have maybe rode a little harder, but I couldn't have run after that. So I sold out from there on out. What was your actual effort level throughout that race?
Oh, so the station work was short, right? And after a run where I could come in and feel relatively recovered. So when I was working in stations outside of the ski and row, I was probably close to a 10 because I knew it was like 9.5, 10 to in terms of output. But the recovery would come back on the runs. So and even just the breaks that we had within the station, I could recover pretty well. So during the station, there was never a point where I was like, I'm like right on that line of tipping over, until maybe the wall balls. Right.
And see, that's
so it was
rate the overall effort of your hardest Hyrox performance out of 10 RPE, and then rate what you had to give in this doubles RPE.
Same scale.
Same
what
scale. Would you say?
It's really hard.
I mean, it's probably
overall
the easiest. Yeah, easiest experience I've had in a Hyrox race.
Overall, this is my second easiest.
So if your best Hyrox performance is a 10, I would imagine it has to be, right? It's capped out. What was this?
Even your
an
worst,
8?
even like a bad, like an 8. I was definitely sore. I felt beat up for sure.
That's what he texted us.
It was an 8.5 until it was a 10 for me. Like I worked harder on my last 2 runs than I worked any run in my life in a Hyrox. But up until that, the little rests, even though I'm working hard the whole time, the rests recover you.
If you're excluding the wall balls, what was the longest time that either of you had a full rest at any point during this 51-minute race?
Rower.
How much time was that?
What did I go? 4:10? 4:10 on the rower.
Oh, you did all of it?
No, meters.
Oh.
Yeah, about 4. Yeah.
Right
so
around
whatever that is. That's
minute and a half.
like
It's called
a minute
20
or so.
Yeah.
And then I did.
We both got
a
full 90. I got a little more than 90 seconds.
Gotcha.
And that's when I knew we were on one. When BK got on there and was rowing, cranking along, then I got on there and I was feeling okay, and I was like, okay, this is good. We were like low 140s on that too.
Yeah, I started. I told him if I ever fade to 48, I'm off there. But I wanted to hit 300, right? Because we had a safe word that while we were running, if we needed to him just roll the whole thing, we'd call that out, and then I wouldn't. But then on it, we decided, I'll get on and shoot for 300 at sub 148. And I think I started 140 and faded to like 44 or 45 towards the end.
But you look comfortable. Like your stroke rate was smooth and low. Your rowing and your skiing is good right now.
Yeah, it's improved a ton in the last 13 weeks because I've done work on it for the first time ever. But anyways, like even that wasn't a crazy effort, and I got like almost 2 minutes to rest right after that, which in the middle of a race, 2 minutes is like 2 hours.
It's pretty nice. Yeah. That was
the time it takes to do a spear throw, which is 20 seconds, feels like a gift from God. I can't imagine 2 minutes.
And then if you hit the spear throw, that's like an extra energy boost. You come out of that thing freaking like you're out of the blocks in a 400, bracket running in a 400.
Although I almost clamped running out of the row.
Did you?
Yeah. The first 2 steps I took, I got those like micro tear feelings when you get off a squat and stand up. When you get that in your groin, I had that up in the entire front of my leg. And I went, oh no, but then it went away.
What's the closest you came to tapping, Bracken? Like, I just can't do this full zone. You got to do it.
Never in the zone.
Never. Okay.
Because our plan was to switch before anything got bad.
Yeah. And we nailed that.
The sled push, we switched every half length.
Yep.
Even though you could have done the whole thing, we just switched because we never wanted to tip. So the stations were never bad. It was the runs.
That last run was probably rough.
Second to last run, we really pushed. And then the last run, we really wanted to crank in. And on the first lap, I wasn't able to do math yet. And remember that we had an extra 3/4 of a lap after because everyone was 2.5 laps. And we came around with the first one and it was our fastest lap yet, I think. And we started the second and I thought, oh no, I don't have 1 to go. I have 2 to go. And then that got bad. I made a noise towards them. I said something like, Rich, we have one more after this. And I was hanging on.
And I ignored it. And I was like, hang on, we're going.
Rich, were you just like heading into that last lap? You're like, I don't care what Bracken says. I'm doing 100 in a row just to see what happens.
I was supposed to lead.
Yeah. But I know we pushed that run fast. So it's like, let's get some recovery time there. And just like strategically, that's the fastest way to do that one specific station for sure.
It's like the row. I
thought about stopping at 99, get BK in there. So it'll be a team effort, but decided against it.
I was supposed to do the first set of wall balls. I was supposed to come in on fumes and just go until I crack and he finishes out. And then if he fades towards the end, then I do like the last 10 or something. But I couldn't keep up with him into the rock zone. So he had no choice but to start it out.
We're going.
Yeah. What would have happened if Rich got there? He's like, I don't feel like doing any. We have like a 3-minute lead. Let's go, Bracken. How long do you think it would have taken?
Well, that was part of the reason the last lap and a half hurt so bad, because it was what was waiting for me. Like if that was just the run, I probably could have run it 5 to 10 seconds faster. But knowing that you have wall balls waiting really causes that run to hurt bad, because whatever it does to me here, wall balls are waiting. So if I knew he was doing all 100, I could have run a little faster. But I started it thinking I'm going to hit 25 and pass off. And lap 2 started. I was like, I might do 15. And on the last lap, I was thinking, I don't know if I can catch him, let alone do a wall ball without cramping. So it was really relieving when he picked it up. And so we should
have talked about that. Yeah, we should have talked about like, hey, let's just sprint this as hard as you can, and I'll just like hang with you, and then I'll just do the wall balls. That's what we probably should. And that there's some time there then, I guess.
Yeah. But in the video, you can see I'm like shaking out and trying to like get mobility into my legs. And then after like 30 or 40, I like rest for a bit. And then I start shaking out and getting ready to go. Like a relay was the sticks coming in. And then around like 70, you start hearing people and like, he's definitely going unbroken. And then at like 80, I stop moving. I'm just like, yeah, okay. I can cramp up. That's fine.
My day's done.
And then I had to get loose his last 10 to get ready to run up the ramp, because my legs were starting to lock up. And I thought this is going to be really bad if I go cross country shoot here up the ramp and I can't get up after he did 100 wall balls and I stood still for 3 minutes.
We executed the last running up the ramp as well. Front to back execution. That's what it came down to.
Congratulations, fellas.
Thank you. I'm wearing the medal.
Way to go, guys. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
I will wear the medal when I
going to get a tattoo of it.
That's not a bad
well, the next event is Team TRP versus Rich and Jack, I think, is going to be the next endeavor.
Where's that?
Mm-hmm. We're going to have to figure it out, but I think Bracken and I want to start hammering a little bit. We want to duel you two. No, we're going to duel you in a Hyrox.
In a Hyrox.
Yeah.
Hyrox doubles or like a
Hyrox doubles.
Team. Yeah.
Or a Deca. A Deca would be fun. Because Deca Deca I think would be real.
We could do we could do all 4 of us, 2 teams.
Yeah, now we're talking.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe
see who really pulls the weight in this podcast.
That will be okay. Because a Deca would be because we could do the individual before. The Hyrox is funny, we don't have a ton of opportunity to run individual, so doing the team's always in front of the individual.
We're fine taking you compromise. Is it always in front of the individual? Always?
No.
Always.
The women went last.
The women did go last, but usually in like a regular non-championship, it's I think it's usually doubles first. If there's a decision to be made in which the opposite would make more sense, you could decide. You can just count on Hyrox just being like, the one that makes the least amount of sense is what we're gonna do here. Yeah. All right, men or women? What do we want to talk about?
Let's start with the women.
Let's go with the ladies. This race was amazing. Could it have played out? I watched it in person, right? I didn't catch the BK Hunter just ripping women down. I didn't watch that yet. I probably will, but my perspective was in person, so it'll be interesting to hear how you guys saw the race play out versus what I saw. So, Kirk, tell us about your race experience watching the ladies.
Well,
Menards.
At Menards. Yeah. And the sun, I was there so long, the sun started coming through the window, hitting my eyes. So I had to find a new parking spot, but I didn't leave the parking at the lot.
And Jess was in the car the whole time.
My girlfriend Jess was in the car, stuck there with, and she put up with it. I'm like, we don't have to. And she's like, it's okay.
I would have just said, how about you drive my medal?
She deserves it.
You seem into this. Yeah, she should have drove home. That would have been smarter.
It's probably like a 30-minute drive for you to find Menards, though.
Oh, no, 12, okay. Dude. I don't live that far out there.
Didn't want to miss a second. Respect. I did that. Amy, I had to drive home when during a Hyrox that I was watching in the car, and we almost ran out of gas. I was like, what the? I'm just like trying to watch this race for like 45 minutes. Could you just? Anyway.
Well, I just want to follow up that in a previous episode or two, I have said I thought watching Hyrox was boring. And it didn't captivate me. And I'm moving off of that rock I thought I would stand on forever and say this was captivating. And it was fantastic to watch. And the coverage was great. And it was a compelling race. And maybe because I'm more invested since we started doing this podcast and I'm paying attention to everybody and following, and I actually give a shit now. But it was wall-to-wall, nonstop investment from start to finish. And it was great. I would encourage anybody, I guess, probably everybody listening to this is into hybrid, but worth the watch, worth the 90 minutes of your life, I guess, between the two races. I'm going to go back and rewatch, I think, just because it was enjoyable enough. So fantastic. Great racing back and forth. The way it played out. Oh, both races just really came to a climax right at the end. It was awesome.
Do you think it was the actual happenings within the race that got you engaged a little bit more? Or was it just like seeing it and now you're kind of following the story? Like
combination of both.
Combination
of both. But the way the races played out and the way that there were true contenders hanging on throughout and the chance of lead changes happening late in the race when those lead changes typically stick and you had just favorites and, contenders battling. It was great. It's fantastic. Most compelling hybrid race I've watched other than maybe the Decafit World Championships, which was actually very enjoyable to watch as well. They were just really good championship races. That's it. That's my overview. Staying away from specifics.
The way this race started, I think the way this race started with the trip up in the women's race within the first 10 seconds, and Michaela goes down.
I didn't see that. It was right away.
I let out what was that?
You let out gas?
No, a gasp. I was like, oh my,
gasp.
Yeah. No, I farted so bad.
Tooted.
Yeah.
You just tooted when you get upset.
Yeah.
Be professional.
Jesus, Bracken. But no, I was like, did that really just when was the last time we saw someone get taken out in a championship race? And I was like, you know what? In the Olympics, Sifan Hassan, she got tripped up and then she ended up winning her heat. Do you remember she was going for the triple?
Yep.
And she just kind of overcame it and was like, all right, I'm digging in right now. I'm not going to let this phase me. And I was like, Michaela's either going to do that or she's going to be like, I traveled to America and I tripped and I didn't win last race against these. So she proved a lot by overcoming that. And I was super impressed.
Where did she fall?
Would you say
first 200 meters?
Oh, on the first straightaway.
Yeah. Because Lauren took it out at like 330 mile pace. And then there was just a cluster of.
She was inside. Maybe it was the second. Maybe it was they had made the turn. She was inside on the rail, but Lauren was rail and Meg was on her shoulder. And there's one woman here. So she moved out to get up on the train. And it looked like she just either clipped Meg's foot or someone behind her clipped hers. And she just went right down.
Hard. Just her.
And then it was that pack immediately. Like people moved around and
there was no windmill sort of fall. It was like somebody took her legs out from underneath her and she just hit the bricks. Yeah.
Like an actual track fall.
Yeah. It looked, yeah.
Wow.
And they were moving fast enough for it to be like a track fall because they were out of the gates like a shot. So.
It's not a floor you want to fall on. So,
but she had the slide protection on.
She's
Maybe that's why she wears it all.
I don't know how she wears that.
She might just be a faller.
Maybe. So the way that this did play out, right? Like we expected Lauren Weeks to go out hard, and Meg Jacoby was dead set on going with her.
She made the race.
Who?
Meg, by getting on her shoulder, she made everyone's race. She set the tone. Even though Lauren led, Meg's decision, I think, was the entire factor for the race going the way it did.
And and I'm sure from Lauren's perspective, it's like, okay, like here we go. This is a different place we've been, like we talked about a little bit on the preview. Do you think if Michaela doesn't fall, I think the reason Michaela won, right, is because she didn't go with that group. And it would be really hard for, I think, anybody to go out with that type of pace and still hang on.
But she was never more than 5 seconds back, like ever in that. She was just off screen, or she was just like she was always in eye shot.
Is that true? Was she always in third? I don't think
it was.
So.
No, because Alondra moved into third then.
But she was right there, just off screen.
Right. But so I think the thing that you're right, Rich, you are right, exactly right. She didn't engage with that then. And so she didn't get caught up. And then she didn't get gapped on the machine coming out. She was gapped coming in, but she stayed with that second pack and let it. She didn't try to bridge the gap. Like you see sometimes that indoor track fall, they sprint back up.
Right.
She just stayed in that, got through the machine, and then got back to work at her work rate. She never revved. And that was such an important decision there.
Correct. And that's something that we saw in Maastricht, where if Lauren Weeks is going to run away, and this was the conversation we had last week, he's like, what do you do? Like, can you keep her in sight enough to be able to make the kind of move that Michaela made?
There's two big differences in leading a race. If you lead a race and you're out front, you're gapped everybody, it's about as efficient as anybody else in the race when you're running free and clear. When somebody, and you can feel them on your shoulder, you might as well be taking 7% of your energy and just sucking it out of you at all times because of what that induces to a run. And that's what they did. She always had breathing on her back. She always was probably a little more tense and a little more engaged. Mm-hmm. It's the only way you're going to beat Lauren in this race. And it happened because somebody was always there.
I don't think Michaela wins if Meg doesn't go head to head with Lauren.
That was my question. Like, does this result play out this way? Because Lauren,
I disagree.
Really?
Because if Michaela didn't fall, didn't she come off the erg? Like, we didn't know where she came into the erg, and then they pop off, and I think she was second out, wasn't she?
But you figure Lauren's working maybe
third.
Well, anyway,
they were like all together. It was like,
and so I mean, that gap would have been so tight after the
second
erg.
league.
So I don't know. I think she would have been committed.
Meg had a 6. Lauren had a 6-second lead coming off the erg. It's not like that changed things. Lauren always goes out fast. I think she was just doing what she did. And Michaela, the first time that she took the lead was getting off the rower. They were both 41-33, she and Lauren. So that was the first time that she moved into the lead. So she patiently waited 2/3 of the race. And then I'm sure you guys saw her running. You saw it in person, Rich. And she just looks fast. Like, that is a runner if I've ever seen one in the Hyrox domain.
And it got faster.
Yeah.
Like, she seemed controlled, and like she dropped the bag on the lunges. And that's when I knew, because like I'm rooting for Meg, and like Meg was pulling her in on every single run until after lunges. And the way that Michaela left the lunges, I was like, oh man, she's got juice.
Her last two transitions were aggressive.
Unbelievable.
Like right away going to her upper body and pumping. And some people get off and they have their like, oh, she just on it right away. She ran it very similar to Magida, actually.
Yes.
Like she cranked down, and then she you rarely see decisive moves in Hyrox that aren't sleds or burpees. She made a decisive move in the second half.
At Farmers is where she kind of came out in front. Yeah. Where it's like, oh man. And that's where Lauren really started to fade. She dropped it twice. She's a little bit slower on that, even if she can go unbroken. And that's where Meg was able to pass Lauren as well. But I don't know. Like, I think Meg being on Lauren's shoulder, like Lauren still was working those. Like, she would come in and put a little bit of gap on Meg after the stations. So maybe it forced her to press the stations even further than she would really want to. Which is
Meg had big closes at the end of the lap run into the rock zone. She came up on her on every station, kind of like what Sandy did to Kent. And you never know, does that cause you to overwork the first down of every station just a little bit to avoid that little transfer of power? There's just so much back and forth in these races now that we were not seeing.
Right.
It was someone who won was head and shoulders above everyone else, and they got to run free and clear and do their own work rate. And no one got to do that in this race, men or women. They all had to just contend with people in traffic.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Michaela's the world record holder, right?
She is,
I believe, in Hyrox Pro Women. And what was she at European Championships?
second.
And probably should have been third, correct?
Probably should have been.
And you wonder if, like, you talk about, like, where's the motivation, where's the receipts, where's the chip on the shoulder coming from? I have to imagine she probably came in feeling a bit that way as well, right? Like Magida came in and dude was motivated to let him know, so to speak. Do you think Michaela had any of that going on, or was this been the result regardless? Because Michaela came overseas, and she's really not the only, but for sure the best overseas performer who came over, took care of business
by a lot.
So I'm thinking, like, I don't know, maybe there's a narrative she's playing in her head, like, screw these girls. Like, I am the best. I didn't perform as well as I wanted in Euros. I should have won. And she just went back and took what was hers. And that was the best way to do it. I don't know. She probably was very motivated is what I'm getting. All these girls are, but I have a feeling, when you're contending for a win, typically you're wired a little differently once that gun goes off, right? Like the way you're going to approach it is going to be some new level of, I don't know.
You figure she came in wanting to be a little bit more aggressive because the way Lauren, like, she was pretty conservative at Euros where she was like 6', 7.
She worked her way
sled
up.
pole, and she worked her way up and found herself in second. She must have been like, man, if I could just go out a little bit faster and keep contact a little bit. And that's where I think Meg pressing Lauren, that took a lot out of Meg to put that type of energy out there. Like, running Lauren's race is not a fun way to run a race. And so Lauren coming backward, and it could have been it was a great race on her end, but I think the top two athletes ahead of her banging like heads really played into her favor as well.
Michaela reminds me of you, Bracken. Do you know that, in the sense that
super ripped,
dude? When you race,
like,
you don't present like necessarily like you're going to be this giant freak of nature vasculating out of your body, and then as soon as you pick up like an Atlas stone or a farmer's carry, you turn into the Incredible Hulk. And you look at her from afar. You look at her from afar, and she's, you just watch her mechanics, and you're like, there's a runner out there running. She had all her clothes on, so you couldn't tell what her muscles looked like. But it's like, you go look at her Instagram, and you're like, dude, this girl is coming through her skin. She is so lean and efficient. And I kind of view you as the same way. Like, you can present as a runner from afar, but like, dude, wait till you start moving weight, and you become super, super jacked. Don't you think she's a little bit of bracket cracker?
Wow. I think that's a nice thing to say to Bracken.
Well, everybody was so mean last podcast, so I'm just trying to even it out.
Here's what I think.
Race week.
I will accept your vascularity compliments all day long. I think the more I see of her, I think she is a incredibly cerebral athlete.
Yes.
She has not made the beginner mistakes at any of these races. She went into her first championship race, which was Euro Championships, European regionals or whatever they're calling it. And she didn't get caught up in the hype early. Yeah, she started slow, but then she had the fastest sled pull. You never see a rookie do that. And then she comes over here and she adjusted her strategy and started to get right up on Meg and Lauren, but she wasn't intending to lead. And she still ran her own race and then made a targeted push at one point. And she got tripped up and she didn't panic. She didn't drop off the back and she didn't sprint right back up out of desperation. She just led the second pack and let her fitness come back through and then picked up the pieces of the carnage ahead. So 3 times now we've seen her make cerebral choices, and with the CrossFit background and how much she works out, I was maybe led to believe that she was just a workout monster who's just going to go. But it looks like she knows exactly what she's doing out there.
And that was the question mark I had about her. It's like, will she be able to have her to be able to race an hour-long race and have composure and have tactics? And these last 2 races, she ran her own race. She didn't get, like, on the men's side of things, you see someone like Michael Sandbach, he is just trying to will his way to win every single race. He's not doing anything. He's not listening to his body at all. He's like, I'm here to win or die. And Michaela's not doing that. She's like, I'm going to figure this out. Let this thing come to me. And when it's time, I know I'm going to be fit enough to really execute. And I've been very impressed.
She doesn't have the body of work either. She's doing this like every time she's still a rookie. Jack, what are the total race numbers? Do you know, between the top women and the top men? I got to say Meg and Michaela have probably the least experience of any top contender.
Neither of them ran
With
a
men?
world championship last year.
We got a lot of these. We got a lot of these
you see a
zeros
couple
coming
big
over here who knows how many races they've run,
Europeans.
and all of a sudden popping 57s and I don't know. It's hard to say.
But Kent's got to be near 10. Hunter's near 10.
Mhm.
You have Dylan and Dave near 10. You have
Sandy's. He's been in for 2 years. He's been
2 years for him. Vanish a bunch.
Alex for sure.
A ton.
Alex, Tobias,
Toby.
Lauren's done a bunch. But Meg and Vivian, what are they on, like 3 and 4? 4 and 5?
4 and 5. Well, this was Meg's 4th. Vivian probably 5. She raced last year. As Michaela's first year. This is Bridget's first year.
Michaela's 4th.
This is Michaela's 3rd.
3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So
world record.
She's not even done with the noob gains of just figuring out strategy yet.
Just what the race is going to feel like, and when to go. So this is interesting. Like out of the sled pull, she was 33 seconds back. Like this in 5th. Like Alondra had a crazy sled push. And then even in burpee broad jumps is where burpee broad jumps in. Michaela's still in 5th and still like 26 seconds back. Closed the gap a little bit. Came out of it. Past 2 people, and she's in 3rd. And then rock zone and row in is where she kind of closed the gap in terms of the running a little bit, but the row out, I think they all came out the same.
So look at her row in.
She hammered that row.
Go back to yeah. She was like 13 seconds down, and then
she made up 13 seconds in that 1,000. She must be a monster on that row.
Wow. Was that the one with the super huge transition zone? Also, she could have extended a little bit to get in there.
They were all
the same.
Yeah.
Okay. They
were all the same. You would see people come in and then you cut away and watch someone working. And then you'd see them like 45 seconds later entering the zone. It was a long rock zone.
You know what's surprising about that row with Michaela dropping the hammer, and Lauren's a good rower, as we know. I mean, not only did she do that, talking about her being a cerebral athlete, the next thing is the farmer's carry, and she walked circles around Lauren. Like she managed her effort. She didn't put out so much and risk it. I think it was still like a calculated move on the row to put her into first, because she put another 20 seconds on Lauren on the farmer's carries. So obviously either Lauren cracked that much or like she striked perfectly.
And look at this. They're even. They're basically dead heat.
This is where I was like, this is the greatest race I've ever seen. This is the best hybrid race I've seen. When Meg, she came out of this 5 seconds back, ran back into them. They were grouped into 3, going into the back 3 stations. I was like, this is nuts.
So what are they out of the farmer's carry? So
and then
Michaela put 29 seconds on
Lauren, 16 on Meg. Jeez.
Wow.
Let me just add in. So I did commentary for Hyrox World Champs a couple of years ago, and that was the one where they had like the 5 or 6 of them head over to Europe and run on the curved treadmill. Mm-hmm. And Lauren had a commanding lead at one point, and then on the farmer's carry, she had to drop them like 3-4 times. And I remember making a comment on that because I looked at all the data leading into it. I'm like, Lauren, if there's anywhere she's gonna lose time, it's on the farmer's carry. And this has been an issue for 3 years at this point. Like I think that she just needs to not make that as much of a weakness, because it even in DECA, she has one of the slower farmer's carries. I think that if I were her, that is something I would spend some serious time on, even though it only takes a minute and a half, a minute 45 during the race. Crucial, as you can see right here with the 29-second lost time.
Jack, if you were anybody, you'd put major focus on the farmer's carry. If you were you'd be like, this is the greatest.
I mean,
station
it's valid.
The
3 of them were within 1 second of each other heading.
This is where Chris Rogowski. This is where Chris made a move at the World Championships last year. Was
now, Jack, you're 100% right. But the only caveat I'm going to throw in there is that in DECA and Hyrox this year, she's postpartum, and the last place you heal is internally. And your core gets so rocked by pregnancy and then giving birth that your legs, your cardiovascular system, your arms will all come back like 3 times faster than your internal workings are going to, especially in the core and the pelvic floor area. And if there was one place on this race that pelvic floor and core strength and stability matter, it's this one. So you take something that maybe she was already going to be a little slower at, and she got set back probably 2 or 3 notches. And I think that that's the area right now that she's lagging in the most. And she has time to remedy that for Worlds.
Yeah. Jack,
so there is a skill
insensitive, being insensitive. You and Hunter are in the same club.
Cancel me. Yep.
You start going backwards. You start going backwards, though.
Those
right?
are very.
I think that's more the thing.
Yeah,
is probably as much of it.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely a good observation and very valid, especially given what she's been through. I was simply pointing out that it was an issue a few years ago. I wasn't
arguing you.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that would be the one hole in her game that I can point out, and she does have a valid reason, based on what you just mentioned. I'm sure that's highly affecting her, but that's something that
canceled.
She should try to narrow the gap on.
She's a smaller athlete in stature, so I'm sure her hand size is probably smaller as well. She had a hard time with sled pull for a long time as well. But she's
also the smaller you are, the more the less space you have for a baby in general. So the more your inner workings get rocked.
Yeah, Jack.
So I'm gonna grind this point to death here, but
keep it going.
It's
pile on.
Sign off.
Might as well put her on the B team, Jack.
Man,
jeez.
Jack, you can take that stat sheet.
Hey, I said Dylan he'd be on the podium, so
he'll never hear that. You could say it to his face, and that will never register.
Nope.
That's true. Yep.
So you think Michaela was circled the row? She's probably the tallest athlete in the entire field. She's like 5'9", 5'10", and could be like Meg's like 5'7". Lauren, I think, is like 5'3". Alondra might be like 5'7" as well. But Michaela's a taller athlete. I wonder what her 2K is comparatively, because the way that she did row this, like you wouldn't expect that much time to be made up. And
not to be able to run after it. Like sure, someone could sell out there. But then she negative split her run from there on out. We don't see that. Have we ever seen
her worst run of the day was actually after that.
But the next two, like if you blow out on the rower, your 7-8 are not going to be good. Have we ever seen in men or women history of a big race here, the move be made on a row? Usually it's like a stopover. Yeah. It's a layover between the front half and back half of the race. I can't recall. Can any of you remember the rower being the deciding turning point?
Not necessarily. Not off the top of my head. And Kirk, I'm going to have to agree with you on this, though. Like I was running back and forth. I was kind of at the far end of the venue trying to watch the runs. I'd run back to see the station work. But when it was on the row, I was like, I'm going to take my sweet ass time to get back there to watch this because this shit is going to be boring. And it was. I was like, God, they're still on that thing? What? They need to make that like a stay, like 250 row, 25 dumbbell snatches, 250 row, 20. They need to do something with that.
That is the one.
That is
ski erg as well, but
it's so early.
So early.
Yeah.
Here's what I think. I think they should combine all the machines into a station and add in new movements.
We'll put it as a note for the long course. Be like 500 ski, 500 row,
and then
25, 30 cals, Salt Lake.
That's the full station, and something like that.
I don't hate it. But that's not the episode. We might have a filler episode next week, so we might be able to talk about that. But then Michaela was undeniable after that row, and like where was I here? And then being able to smoke everybody on the farmers, 16 seconds on the farmers carry. And then she extended another 10 on that run, leading into lunges. So,
which is wild.
I know.
But if you watch the video, you could tell she was extending on that.
Yeah.
At that point, Meg's race was one of the toughest races I've ever seen. Like extending herself to go with Lauren, it's not like how anybody wants to run. And then when the race started to separate, she was able to kind of make another move to remain in second and like trying to kind of cut the, and made up a second on the lunges. I was still trying to break to catch up on this. So, or I guess made up 5 seconds on lunges.
Do you remember when Alan Webb did that crazy third lap? He's like, you guys just aren't going to hang with me anymore. I think it was in the Olympic trials in the 1500. He just like split like a 55 or something. That's what Meg looked like, or not Meg, Michaela looked like right there. She just took off and was like, you're not going to be with me anymore.
He laid an egg in the Olympics when he got there.
I know.
That's besides.
And Lauren, I don't think we highlighted it, came out of lunges in fourth.
She did. Alondra was coming. Alondra was definitely lunges out. I think on one of the runs, it seemed like Lauren was really struggling. And then Alondra was still rallying to catch up. But then I think Lauren closed the gap on wall balls and they came in at the same time. I guess 3 seconds back. And then like Lauren went unbroken.
Yeah.
It's like,
Everyone did.
Of course.
Michaela went 3:10 on hers, which is like 4 seconds slower than you, Rich. Pretty crazy.
Take that to your 9-foot target.
You got to give props to Lauren for hanging in there after it was obvious things were good. She still battled to the bitter end. Granted, Alondra, when it hit her on the wall balls, it hit her pretty hard and her cadence slowed. And also props to Alondra for putting her nose in there. She almost pulled off what we predicted, taking top 3. But I will say, like, I think Lauren still made this race. I don't think it was Megan or Michaela. I think without that front runner to give us something to talk about, I think the race becomes very different in dynamic. So I still think Lauren made the race more than anybody else, because that's the reason this was so exciting, was her aggressive running style. That's why people like the Prefontaine thing, right? Watch him go out front and see if he can pull it off again. But even though it was disappointing for Lauren, she never threw it in. No. And she fought hard till the very end. When you know how that momentum goes, when you're the expected winner and it's not going that way, the deflation you feel, the fact that she gritted it out, I don't know. It just says a lot about her character as an athlete. Wasn't her day, but I still think it's like tip of the hat to her for making the race and then still being able to finish like she did.
She's amazing. You know, I'm always astounded by her. If you're her, do you reevaluate or do you double down in terms of strategy?
Double down.
You just like, let's go out harder.
I think she just keeps the strategy and comes in. She still has the most fitness to gain versus the rest of these 3 women.
She's going to know what tipped her. She knows how it felt, where it happened, how it felt. There's going to be a flip of a switch where it happened. She's like, oh, crap. I think she does the exact same thing, and she's just very aware of what tipped her over.
Maybe she manages those stations a little bit more, because you could tell she was hammering the runs and hammering. She was getting away from Meg. Let's see if we can see this really fast. She was getting away from Meg even leading into the zones. So like skier again, it was the same, skier out 5 seconds. So she could probably like pull that back a little bit, and like just so when it comes to the rest of the group coming and then when moves need to be made, because she just didn't have an answer when it was time to respond.
I mean, her strategy has got her 2 world championships before and took down essentially everybody in this field 3 weeks before. Why change it? It just wasn't her day.
You know what I think? There's two schools of thought here, and I think the best school of thought is if you believe you are the best, you do one of 2 things. You go out like she does, or you wait as long as possible to go into race mode. You sit with whoever's up front and you just stay as relaxed as possible and you key off them because you know you're better. And then you choose to race when you are forced to, or when your opportunity comes up. You can win it 2 ways. But she either needs to double down on this all out early, or I think the opposite strategy, actually. Hold off on racing as long as possible until it's time. That's it, but there's no in between.
Yeah. You're right. The only flaw in that is that how long can you sit if you know you currently have a 29-second disparity in your second or your third to last station? Like maybe she becomes really good at the farmer's carry if she's fresh. Maybe her farmer's carry is because she smashes everyone, including herself, up until that point. It's just really hard to tell. The other thing is that she runs in the flimsiest shoes out of anyone out there. Like she might.
What time is it? It's been a minute, an hour 23 for shoe reference.
She's in the New Balance 1400s, right? Or something like that.
Like the Minimus.
She might have 3 to 5 seconds of run per 1,000 just sitting in there waiting.
Pop on some of those endorphin 3s. I think those are the shoe this year.
I think so.
I think I got to get a pair. I wish.
Those are the Mizunos.
I won $200 in a block pool for the Super Bowl. So what else would I spend that on?
Maybe the Mizunos.
You talking about the Pro 3s?
No, not
the
those.
Endorphin Pro 3s? Is there any other?
Yes.
Not the speeds. I can't imagine there'd be a.
No, I'm not getting those after wearing these Rebellion regulars, the Rebellion Pro. I'm not impressed with this.
Have you read reviews? No one's impressed with the Rebellion regular, and people are blown away with the Pro. It's like Vaporfly versus Zoomfly.
All right. Look,
I'm going to get a pair and I'm going to beat you in a Hyrox.
You get a pair and then you tell me. Look, Michaela was a minute down coming out of the sled push. Minute 9. That's crazy. And again, and Alondra really kind of hammered this thing too. She probably went a little bit harder.
Well, that's her strength.
But like it's so early.
Look at the people behind her. That minute down. You had Viola and Chris, and then
Tara,
the gap in Tara, and then the gap where they finish. Sled push out. Look at that. Viola's 2 seconds behind Michaela.
Right. And yeah, ends up winning by several minutes. That's, I mean, she just.
One other thing to mention, since we were talking about Lauren changing her strategy, it's like, should you wait until the last possible second? I think Kirky mentioned that. You have 3 minutes, 10 seconds for Michaela's wall balls, 3:14 for Meg, 3:13 for Lauren. Like, you can't wait. You're not going to do wall balls better than Unbroken and pass people like that. And she's not going to outrun them in the last 4-minute run, theoretically, because Michaela is just a better runner at that point. And lunges, they're pretty similar to each other.
She could go at burpees.
What if? Okay, I'm not.
You
sure
can go earlier, right? It doesn't have to be.
I'm not sure if Hyrox works like this, but if like a Prefontaine thing would be like making a crazy decisive move. So the way that she attacks this first run, where she was 3:45, right, and everybody else was closer to 4. What if she has a 15-second gap on a run that she could put in the middle and sits, and then it's decisive and just like as hard as she can go. It's probably a miserable way to do it.
Into burpees, and she's maybe the best at burpees.
She's very good at burpees.
And come out with 30 seconds.
The tough thing is you have to assume that sled push and pull will go according to plan, and that doesn't always happen.
Another thing Lauren did say this, and she said she does better on the light sleds, right? She's not as big, as strong as big of an athlete. She's probably as strong as anybody that's out there, but just stature-wise, she's smaller than some. So the U.S. sleds are a minute slower, and it takes that much more effort to push it a minute slower than it is in the European side of things. So I think the UK sleds run more like US sleds than like German and Spanish sleds. So that's something to consider.
We have national boundaries coming into play now.
I believe
it's not just European sleds.
It's not. UKs are slower.
So where are you?
American and former territories.
What's the hierarchy now?
In terms of difficulty?
Like, who has the pristine racecation sleds?
The easy ones?
Yeah, like who has the Bali or the Fiji? You're going Spain?
Spain. And there's going to be a Sweden race. There's going to be a lot of people going to that race hoping for them to screw up the course there. I didn't see the sled push. I'm guessing the sled push.
You said a Sweden race?
Yes.
When is that? I'm heading to Sweden.
One, I thought.
Mid-March.
I'm heading to Sweden in March.
There you go. Get in there.
Jack, I need a date on that.
I think the 24th.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there on the
24th.
Get in that mix.
Hop off the plane into a 59-second sled push.
25th. Yeah.
25th. Right into a 9-minute wall ball.
25th, Bracken. You might have a day there. You should do it.
25th. Just walk in there like you own the place. Like, hey, I'm the North American team champ. They'll let you in.
So just some last notes on the women's end of things. Just Vivian Tafudo ran a great race. Very aggressive.
I mentioned her once.
Put herself. She was kind of in no man's land the entire time. Alondra also very aggressive. Almost got onto that podium. Never gave up on the race. She never will. It's just like her running ability isn't quite there with the rest of the athletes. Her wall balls are lacking behind, but like her strengths, she's able to really capitalize on them. So I thought she ran really well. Bridget Brown here. Look at this. Farmers Carry in. She had
sixth.
She was 6th, and look at this gap here.
She was 2 minutes down at Farmers Carry in, and then the gap. What is it, over 6 minutes?
Farmers Carry out. I was looking for her between her and Tara.
Oh,
she did an extra.
Wow. Down and back. Oh.
Yeah, she did an extra down and back.
Man.
Yeah, so she was running really strong. She smoked the sled and was kind of in no man's land in 6th. And this is like a money position too. And then coming out of that, then all of a sudden there's 2 people, Viola and Tara, on her. And at that point, from a racing perspective, like, how could I be going backwards when she like kind of wasn't? But it was like hard to kind of regroup, you know what I mean? So she ended up in 8th, but I thought she ran really well. I think her and Vivian both have a shot to run times to potentially get them into the World Championship.
I want to say one thing about our coverage, and that is that we were both on small laptops this weekend. I was traveling and didn't have a desktop or TV set up, and Hunter was like on a Nintendo Switch or something like that. and so we have this big grid panel there of everything, and he talked about it on there. It was really difficult for us to see what was going on. So it sounds like a cop out, but I started rewatching it on the treadmill yesterday, and there were so many times I was like, we haven't even seen Magida, and we hadn't, but he had been on screen like 10 times. And Tara, Bridget, Viola, there were a bunch of time where they deserved to be spoken about, and we didn't even see them. Like, they were so tiny on our screen because we didn't have our normal setup there that it was just impossible to tell. Like, we couldn't tell Linda Blair the difference between her and Viola at one point, and they're not.
Bracken, you said that on the air. There's no Linda Blair.
She was the actress.
It's Linda Meyer. I say it every time. It's so bad. I can't blame that on screen size. It's so embarrassing.
You just love The Exorcist.
I heard it on the broadcast. I'm like, you did it again.
I know. It's one of those things where I make it a point to say it, like, don't say Blair, don't say Blair. Blair.
Is it every Linda or just Linda Meyer? And like anyone named Linda, you're like Linda Blair.
I haven't known a Linda since Linda Fowler, who was Peter Fowler's mom in high school.
So it might be every Linda.
It might be. Anyways, I feel terrible about saying Linda Blair rather than Meyer. And it sounds like an excuse, but it is. Like, we just really didn't have eyes on who was there. And unfortunately, it cost people like their screen times there, but they weren't discussed in the commentary. And so David, I would say Bridget, Viola, Tara, Vivian, they were all kind of shortchanged, and that's our fault.
That's just the name of the game, though. Like, you talk about the top three, you talk about the race that's leading the thing.
But they were on screen, and if you're on screen, you need to be spoken about.
Okay.
And we didn't see him.
Do we want to give 3 minutes to Chris Rogloski? Because we gave her lip service beforehand, and she finished second to last in 11th. Do we want to try to even break that apart, or do we just move on?
I don't think she's having a great time with the winters in Colorado from a running perspective.
Is that a guess, or is that
she told me that?
Well, do you care to share what she said?
I mean,
because she's not an excuse maker, and I don't take anything she says as one. So I think it's
her just like running fitness isn't where it is typically, and she gets joy from being outside. She's not going to be a treadmill person. It's been a rough, like, it's just starting to kind of come around now, but it was like 6 weeks or so was just like pretty much treadmill exclusively, with a lot of snow and like really, really cold temperatures. And she's from Texas. This is her first winter here, so I think that's certainly a piece of it. So like running fitness and like specific prep is just behind.
Did she know that this was going to be the case, like going in, that she had a feeling that this would be the result, or do you think this caught her off guard?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what her expectations were.
She don't like to lose. She lost.
But notably. She still likes to give it all. For her, I think the results are like secondary. Like, I think she likes to push herself hard, and winning is nice, but I still think it's like as hard as she can go. She was still out there smiling.
Good.
Where is she located? Like, she's actual area? What town?
Denver.
She's in Denver. She's in like southeast Denver.
Okay, Jack, is it just much different there than where we were in the Springs? Because we trail ran all winter.
It's not near the trails at all.
Well, Bracken, you got to realize, like, where we are, we're 10 minutes from the mountains. East Denver, you're probably like 30.
Yeah, without traffic. Or with
okay, so that's what the issue is?
Probably.
Yeah, it should be like living out in Falcon or something like that for us. It's just not that close.
Okay, because I keep hearing this same narrative, which is this winter's been so hard to run in, and I was like, did we not experience real winters out there, or is it just we have that Cheyenne Canyon and we're a little protected? Our lower trails, we couldn't get high mountain, but our lower trails were always pretty accessible,
runnable. Yep.
Kind of when you just gotta hopefully be stimulated to run the roads. Who cares if you got to go slow?
And I mean,
she's
also watching a couple kids. Like, that's what I think she's a nanny for
she's
her
working.
job. And like,
she's busy.
The time of day, once you get out of work, once the parents come home, that's when she can work out and stuff. Or early in the morning and it's dark on those nasty trails. It's a tough time to train right now.
I suppose this is my chance. This is my time to fight her.
This is it. Maybe she's in the MMA gym a little bit more,
Did you see? She didn't come anywhere near me this weekend.
She did.
She cheered us on a little bit during our race, but the moment that ended, she was AWOL.
Rich,
a lot of talk, but then when it was on site, there was no sight.
What's up, Jack?
Rich, scroll down real quick. Yep. Last place, 12. Weren't there 13?
And I think only 12 started.
Linda Blair didn't show up.
Linda Blair was absent.
That's true. Yeah.
She's like in her late 60s. Yeah. She's living off of that Exorcist money. She has nothing to prove. Linda Meyer was my podium pick. Not fit. I think she's been working on some sort of injury. Didn't know. And Viola, kind of the same deal.
I was the only one to pick Michaela. Now I think about it.
For third.
I was the only one who thought she'd even podium.
How many points do you get for in the Bauer system prediction contest?
Oh, way more for third. Yeah.
But even though you picked her for, no. Not hearing it. Yeah. Kirk got, no. Did anybody get anything exactly correct? No.
Nope.
Or no,
you guys all had Meg. I had Lauren.
Jack, you picked Meg in second.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Okay. Congratulations.
I didn't have Meg in second.
Well, you picked. You had him. You picked how you pick. You're like, Meg's going to be great. Lauren's going to be great. I can't pick between the two of them. So if they
whatever
get
super shoes are there.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
That was what happened. Any last points on the women's side?
I think there's separation at the top. The top three, it's kind of going to be like what you saw in OCR for a few years. Like, I know new names come into the sport for sure, but right now, those three are on a different level.
Alondra's so close, though. I feel like
she is, close. But there are a lot of really close athletes as well who are, Leanne Waston, very, very good. Occasionally broke it off, but there was still Lindsay, Faye, Nicole, like on a different level.
Yeah. She's like Annie Doobie.
Yeah, she's on camera the whole race. She passed Lauren. She was in third place with a station to go.
Yeah.
So I still can't shake the feeling that she might make a world podium this year. We talk about Michaela having a high ceiling. I think Alondra has a ton of fitness to gain too, like just in still improving her running and piecing this together. She's getting better.
She's definitely getting better. This race is so aggressive. It's like, and I think she has to, because I think the first three stations are her strength, and sometimes people can really kind of lean into that. And even though there's 45 minutes of a race left and like really kind of press herself, but she rallied and caught up to Lauren. Like, she's just tough, just doesn't care. She's just going for it.
She's that good, and she's only going to get better. If she stays healthy, she's only going to get better.
Yeah, I agree.
We're starting to see injuries in this sport. We're starting to see people come in dinged up. We didn't see that in the past, I don't think, as much.
The confusing thing about Jack's statement about we're seeing the separation at the top is you're right, Jack, in a sense. You're right. I mean, Michaela, Meg, and Lauren all just basically proved their performance in Euros wasn't a fluke, but we see such big swings in Hyrox. Like Chris Roglaski goes and wins out of the blue, and Magida comes from 8th in Euros to beat everybody that whooped him there and then some. It's just it's one of those that still isn't, it's not going to be as clear as like an OCR race where you're like, these three for sure will separate no matter what happens. Nobody has a chance. It doesn't feel like that with Hyrox. Like, there's always going to be that like asterisks, right? Like, but maybe
I kind of agree with Jack on this one. Like,
do you?
I think that those three, like if you put in like terms of tiers, I think when Hunter's at his best and when Ryan Kent's at his best, like they're on a different tier. And I think those three women are on that tier.
Yeah.
And everybody else is a little bit below. Right now on the men's side, I think nobody's on that tier. I think the women's tier stands alone on that elite level. And I think everybody else on the guys tier is just like good. So I think on the men's side, it's like a real shakeup. But on the women's, I think it's going to be those three.
I think if any one of them shows up, they're guaranteed to win. Guaranteed. If you just have one there. Yeah. But what we're seeing is like what Kirk said, is all three are there. It opens the door for someone else, because like off in the mountains, if someone gaps you, you're just still so much better at running in the mountains than everyone else. Yeah. But here, these swings happen so big that if all three show up, it's almost impossible for all three to have a clear podium. You see Alondra sneaks back up there because they're too good for each other's good. On the men's side, we're seeing the same thing. Like any one of these 5, 6, 7 guys could win a race, but when they're all in there together, suddenly one of them takes 10th.
Right. So let's move on to the dudes. Dudes. So huge shout to our guy, David McGee. Did you see his post? He was like, keep believing in yourself when they're not believing in you. I was like, I wonder if he's talking about us. And then he sent me a text. He's like, you motherfuckers on Race Brain didn't pick me. I was like, I guess he was talking about us.
For a lot of people, if you have to think, I wonder if they're talking about me or not, you're just being overly sensitive. David's not one of those people. He's always talking about you.
You talk about kept receipts, Kirk. I mean, he's got a whole file.
You know what's funny about that though is as much I don't bag on David as much as you guys do, but didn't it still feel like a win for all of us in a weird way? Like the one guy that you guys like to poke at who can't defend himself because he's not here chatting with us while we make fun of him. It still felt like a giant win for all of us, which is like a very interesting. That's how it felt. Like I felt like I won. I don't know why, but I did.
I mean, felt that. But I also don't feel like we're that mean to him.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I think we promote Dylan more because Dylan's steady Eddie.
The only person you make tongue-in-cheek jabs at is David. We'll put it that way.
And me.
Oh, yeah. But you're
that's
here.
not tongue-in-cheek.
Overt.
Yeah, right. We mean that.
Dead serious. But like coming off of Euros, we really gassed him up. We did believe in him. We believed in his fitness. I think a lot of us picked him for the podium at Euros and he finished in 7th, So it's like, okay, like we just saw this. So I don't think we made mention of him. I don't think we said he would necessarily do poorly. I just don't think we talked about him at all on the preview for this one.
I did. I said he's coming 3 weeks off a race. He doesn't have the travel, and I wouldn't be surprised if he absolutely busts through. Go back and play it. Play it back for me.
You said something very similar to that.
I got your picks here.
Shut up.
No one picked David.
And we're back.
Touche. Yeah. Good point. So as this race started, I thought Kent had it in the bag. And like that's my guy, so I'm really rooting for him. I mean, I'm rooting for all the Americans like a madman. But in that beginning part, what were you guys feeling for the race? Like, how do you think it was kind of playing out as it started to roll through those first like 2 or 3 stations?
When they came out of sled push, I thought, right now, call it Kent first, Dylan second, McGee to third.
Out of sled push.
Because
they were back.
He just pulled the Euros right with him, right into it. They played right into his hands, and then they passed him on the push going down. It's like, that's it. Their legs are going to be done. Like, you cannot experience the sleds for the first time in such an aggressive manner. And for most of the guys, that was true, but Sandy impressed me. He is so durable. He's a little chinny. He keeps getting dropped, but then he just stands right back up. I was with you. I thought Kent had just broke it open and it was going to be a rout.
When's the last time?
Yeah, I thought he tricked them. I thought they fell victim to his trap, like you were describing. Not that he was trying to trap them, but I was like, they played into his game. Kent, He knows what these American sleds are like. They're in trouble.
When was his last race? His last Hyrox? How long has he been
with the Rich?
It was in LA.
What was that
6
date?
weeks.
6 weeks?
December something.
Okay. So not that far removed.
7 weeks.
I think that's it, Kirk, right? We've seen him do this thing before, but he had like double the time before to make that fitness jump. 6 weeks just wasn't quite enough for him to do what he did here last year, but he ran the same strategy. I think he was just a few weeks shy of being able to demolish.
And he had a big weekend at DECA. Not that should be out of the legs, but I think he was forced to go all the way to the well, 3 races in one weekend. How long ago was that now? I mean, that was a ways too.
That was November. That was a while ago.
That was before.
Was that November? Oh, never mind. Time flies. Yeah. Forget it. I'm gonna stop.
No, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like I think he tried to take the race. He likes to be aggressive, and I think he was just racing the way that he likes to race, and there was something that just wasn't clicking in the midpoint of the race. And when the wheels start to fall off in Hyrox, it's really hard to keep them on, which is what is impressive with someone like Sandy or like what Lauren Weeks did or what like Meg did, like, because when you're not having fun out there, it's real easy to just cash it in and just Ryan, try to get to the finish.
Ryan was still in fourth starting the wall balls.
Totally.
He stayed on it. That is the most miserable experience I've ever had as an athlete, I think, is being cracked in Hyrox, and he kept the pedal down the best he could.
Yeah. Give him credit for it.
I believe this is incorrect with sled push in. Jonathan Wynn definitely was not there, as if he was way down here on ski. So that's wrong. But then that's where Sandy and Kent, it was Sandy was in front of Kent going into sled push for sure.
Sandy strong exiting.
And they both had really fast sled pushes, like 230 somethings, which I think is too fast. On the US sleds, I just don't think that that's reasonable.
Unbroken
Jack,
down,
come up with that stat?
unbroken back.
That's too much. I just think that's too much. Unless, like, I think that we've gone too far with trying to make the sleds, and like the Europeans can make their times off of their sled pushes because they're lighter, and it takes them a minute less, and that's a minute less pushing. And because they're lighter, they're not having to exert themselves as much. But we can't. I don't think on US courses you can make a time on the sled push. So I think Sandy and Kent really kind of overdid it here with a 26-second gap on the field. Oof. And let's see how much. Let's see. 53 seconds.
Yeah, they were 241.
It's become where you can't win it here, but you can lose it here.
And I think
an hour-long
race on the sleds.
And I think that's what screwed our brains up. Because Hunter would then go on and win and be the best at every single station after it. right? It's not like, oh, he won it here. It's like, no. If this was last, he would have already been in the lead by as much as he won by. Like, he's just better than everybody at all of it. But I think that everyone's like, oh my God, he just dominates people right from the start. And now it's just kind of like this mindset, at least on the dude's end. It's like, sled push needs to be where I engage and hang in there. I don't think that's the case. And look at Dylan and David. They were 9th and 10th coming out of the sled push.
A minute back almost.
Mm-hmm. You want to know there's
every European guy,
Ryan Kent,
unless he was cracking, came out like, I told you, we're beating all the Americans. I told you it wasn't that bad. Look at this. And then,
but they were all cracked.
No.
there was no example of the former of that bracket. There was somebody coming out there feeling good. Every single one of these goofballs were dead after it. Let's go to the sled pull. Go ahead, Jack. Where you had?
I would just think you look at this as an hour-long race. Let's say it's an hour.
241 on the sled push.
That was like a 4-second delay.
That's an all-timer right there. Oh man.
You can go ahead, Jack.
Man.
Oh, you can't.
He's done. He's out of here.
Okay. I was just I don't know why it's bad. I'm hooked in. But anyway, Kent was 241, Sandy was 228, Magida 318, and Dylan 322. So they're almost 30 to 40 seconds slower on the sled push, and those were your top two finishers. Everyone just blew themselves up. Magida talked about it when he went to Europe, that's what happened. He just went too hard on the sleds and had nothing left in him, and that was the strategy. And I think if you want to have a successful race, especially on, it doesn't even matter US soil, to be honest, because Magida said it affected him in Europe. You got to go slower on those sled push and just save something for the rest of the race because you're only 15 minutes in.
The Euros tried to match their splits. They came in like, I could do it in 2 minutes. That's what I do it in Spain, in Glasgow, in Frankfurt. So I'll do that again here. They put out the same effort more for a 3-minute push, and then it ruined their race. And then
they
everybody
kept
else.
Their rest periods. Anyone who scheduled breaks on the first 2 legs of it did well. Anyone who kept the European cadence were rocked.
And that's something I actually did. I looked at these numbers a little bit. And I talked about this on Reinforced Running Podcast, that only 3 athletes surpassed their place overall from where they finished in the sled push. Like Dylan and David were 11th and 12th and 11th on the sled push total. And they finished 1st and 2nd. And then Alex Ronkovich was 9th on the sled push and he finished 5th. Everybody else was lower than their finishing place than what they got on the sled push.
I mean, take the 10,000-foot view. If it's an hour-long race, even if it's a pure running race, are you going to surge 15 minutes into your race with 45 minutes left. How do you think that net result is going to end you just from an energy management standpoint? Who cares what is in the place of the sled push? Yes, that's more effective at damaging you. But at that point, like that's what Michaela did so well, for example. It's like, I got 45 minutes left. What are you trying to prove?
Down.
Yeah. Correct. It's the same. Just like take a step back and look at it as a whole. You're only a quarter of the way through the race time wise. So
it's
maybe
that
pull back.
visual.
Yeah.
Like on a road, you can just feel the string and you can feel the tension on that string and you know if I'm in range or not. But that visual in Hyrox of they're off the sled is just like, it destroys people mentally. And David and Dylan have moved beyond that. Mm-hmm. They're living in a post-visual world here, guys. They don't need line of sight. They can still feel the thread. But most people can't feel that thread anymore. As soon as someone drops it and goes, people go into panic mode. As soon as someone moves past them on a sled, then their strategy of I'm going to break every 12 steps goes out the window, and it's I have to move as long as they move.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what happens on this next run. So David is in 9th, 53 seconds down, and then he comes in 6th, 26 seconds down. That's from the top people. So he came out of there. What?
They were in the 40s. He was in the 20s.
Dave did a 3:24. 3:48 was Sandy. So he did 24 seconds faster on the next
and then so he's in 6th here. Sled pull in, he's still in 6th. Let's look at Dylan here as well. He's in 8th, 41 down, and Megita's 32 down. Sled pull out. Dylan's all the way up to 4th, and Megita's in 3rd. And Dylan, not that strong of a guy. I don't know if you've seen him. But all these other guys were dead.
He just saved that little clip right there.
Good. Mm-hmm. Give it to him. But he just managed his energy. And then
was his run?
3:32.
3:32. And he took 16 seconds on the run. 16. We haven't seen spreads like this.
It's crazy. And this is just like
that there's almost 30 seconds in a mile different pace right there.
Just backs up your theory about the sleds being mismanaged. Yeah. Clearly, it's just the writing's on the wall there. It just confirms exactly what the narrative you're writing.
And honestly, to defend the Euros here, like it's a different race.
Yeah.
It's a different race. They came over. It's unfair, and not because it's heavier. The way that's unfair for us with this qualification system, it's unfair for them to come over here and expect to run the same race that they've done repeatedly. A lot of these guys probably raced like 6-7 times this year, and for them to come over here and get smacked by the sleds and then have them expect to be able to run after it, it's just like it's not reasonable. It's not fair for them. So they came over here and basically wasted a trip for this. I knew it.
Now they know.
I knew. I was saying it the whole time. Did I tell I met Stefan Blecken at dinner, and we said Bracken, they're gonna get married. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be nice. Kent mentioned something at dinner. He's like, oh, isn't that Bracken's relative? And I was like, oh yeah. And we started laughing. I see Stefan. I was like, oh yeah, our friend his name's Bracken, and you're Blecken. He was like, oh yeah, sounds similar. And I was like, yeah. All right. So I guess it's not that funny.
He sounds like an asshole. Exactly what I would expect.
You see on Hunter's post before the race that he's coming back, someone's like, set the world record, do this, do that. And someone commented, doesn't matter, still won't beat Stefan Blecken. So I was like, oh my goodness, they know something we don't. Like this guy's coming for it. And I don't want to skip to the end result already, but
me neither. We're still in the middle of this thing.
Jack could have pooped and beat him.
I think that's true. That is factually correct. So yeah, sled pull out.
100%.
This is where
taking even longer wiping.
And Colin made a big push here too. And Colin's generally more of a station-based athlete where he can really hammer the stations to make his way back in. His running's a little bit behind most of the athletes here. But even he was just being used to what it's like on an American course, smoked all these athletes coming out of the sled. But this is really where
still a ways back.
I thought he was completely out of it. He really rallied.
Yeah. Wow.
And I talked to him a little bit after, and he's.
I thought he was pulling a Michaela, just taking it. Yeah.
But I mean, the way we saw him run at Euros, it was all confidence. It was all positive momentum at Euros. It wasn't like that right from the start.
He's on
like
that
watching
tour right now.
That's what I was trying to tell you guys. I was like, I don't think Tim's going to care as much. I don't think Ronkovic's going to care as much. Sandy has something to prove, and Sandy's out there willing his way to a blow up, but not that bad of a blow up. This is not that bad of a Sandy blow up. At this point, what are you guys thinking at this sled? Like, is it noticeable on camera that's like, oh shit, Magida and Dylan are coming?
I remember not noticing them and then all of a sudden being like, whoa.
Hunter was talking trash.
Charging.
What'd he say?
Bracken, I'm sure you remember that, but he's like, oh, Magida's not even on camera. And now that you've explained that you couldn't even see him because of your layout, that changes things. But he's like, he's not even in the picture. He already cracked. He's a bum. And then same thing with Kent once Sandy got off, 10 seconds faster or so. He's like, Kent's broken. That's it. He doesn't have the mental capacity to stay. Like, he was talking some serious smack right there. I remember that
first
starting
lap,
around the sled pole.
On the first lap, Hunter goes, Kent looks tired already.
Jesus.
He made it like 18 seconds before he started ripping into him. Yeah, no, really. Yesterday on the treadmill, that part hit, and I said, "Where's Magida?" And he's like, "He's nowhere to be seen." And as we're saying it, he's leaving sled push or pole in third place, and we just couldn't see it.
Like the way that the Euros were running after the sled push, and I was yelling at Dylan and Magida on the back stretch, and I was like, "These dudes are going backwards," and you could tell Magida had that positive momentum, and when he gets that, it's like, okay, he's going to be dangerous, yeah, because like he is as fast and as strong as anybody, and his fitness is as good or better than anybody out there. So it's like when he's feeling it, and you could really tell because of how he was cutting people down on that run. And he's like, okay, I'm in a good spot. And then the sled pull was like, okay, these guys are here. So when they came out of the rock zone, still 30 seconds down though. Still a bit of a gap.
Yeah. Rewatching it, them coming out of the sleds looked like T2 in a triathlon, where like everyone is running minutes different in pace, and Dylan and Magida were just the guys that got off the bike fresh. And like in Ironman, when you watch T2, some people get out and are like they just got off a horse for 100 miles, and other people just start running. That's what it looked like. They weren't even running the same race. You were right, Jack, like 30 seconds per mile. Some people are running like 6:20 pace, and others were running 5:35. It wasn't even the same strides. It was wild looking.
Yeah. Are we thinking like, I'm not sure if I think Magida can win at this point because this is where Kent starts to kind of go backwards. Like Sandy put like 9 seconds on him on the pole.
It didn't look like Kent was necessarily fading at this point, though, as much as it looked like Magida was charging. So it wasn't like the verdict. I was still like, I don't know how this is going to play out. Like it didn't appear as Kent was cracking, but Magida was moving with more purpose than anybody. So I was still waiting to see it play out here.
My assumption at that point was that Kent was one of the three best no matter what. Even if he didn't win that race, he was still going to sneak in the top three at that point. And sometimes you just have a bad sled, push or pull. It just happens. And I was like, okay, well, Magida's looking good. Maybe it's just his day. He's raced more of this more recently, and he could just be feeling it today. But I didn't think that Kent would fall back, to be honest. And I thought that if anybody would, it would be Sandy. I thought he was just being very aggressive there, and would seen it in the past. Like he can get to the end, but that last wall ball station, things just fall apart. And I thought Kent was gonna just reel his way back in at some point, and Sandy might fall back to fourth. But I was surprised.
You're not feeling good on those burpee broad jumps. That's really like the mental make or break. It's like if you're willing to go faster on burpee broad jumps, like you're probably going to do okay. For just surviving it, it's probably not going to be a good day. And you can rewatching it. Kent was surviving.
I couldn't see it live, but rewatching it, it was just obvious right there that Magida and Dylan are going to be gone here, because Dave's never been like a burpee broad jump powerhouse. He's had decent performances there, but he's had some races where he's struggled there, like taking long rests, resting on his knees kind of thing. And you could tell he just fed off of people. He just rolled through that thing. And, Dylan's not going to fade. So there, it just, the body language on these gentlemen at this point could not have been more different.
And this is where I like when they're coming off and Sandy's still 30 seconds ahead of Dylan, and because Dylan made a move on that, only coming out 4 seconds behind David on the Burby Brothers. Now they're both in it. It's like, you got to put pressure on Sandy. Like, if he's running away from it, I think that he is capable of winning. But as soon as someone comes up on him and he's like, oh my God, I'm not awesome right now, that's when it doesn't go as well for him.
Is this the out?
Here's Burby Broad. That's Burby Broad jump out.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Let's see Rock's out though. So they took
Still
3 seconds just in that first 80 meters.
Kent dropped 10 seconds.
Yeah, Kent is the opposite direction now. But then, Magida closed on that run. Let's see what the row out is.
Yep.
Lost some time here. Dylan, the dude can row, man. When you row 80,000 meters a week, you get pretty good at it.
That's what he does. 80,000 a week.
No, I said a number that I don't even think is possible.
I was like, I'm gonna pull.
But you would believe it.
Feel how long that would take, but yeah.
But if you can believe it, then like maybe
Mike worked this too. He was aggressive on the row.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of his last ditch effort.
He's just trying too hard. Like, that's like a weird way to say about a racing, but he's just trying way too hard at every aspect of this race up until he just can't do it anymore. Like, he's not making it easy on himself one bit in this hour-long race, which, like, props for sure.
He's like a rabbit right there.
He just like doesn't understand not being in first place, it seems like. And then
that kind of reminds me of Isaiah, how he races. Just doesn't like not leading. And it's like, you're not fit enough to be doing this. And then he'll end up finishing third. And it's like, you should have just gone a little slower.
And Jack ends up second.
Out to Rock's in there. Let's see this run here. 20 seconds to 3.
And that's and Magida is coming out.
And it was Magida, so it's 27 second.
If you're doing, let's say you're doing 1,000-meter intervals, K repeats. 17 seconds difference in your intervals is like the difference between 5K and half marathon, or 5K and marathon pace. Like, it's not even the same remote wheel or workout at that point.
This
is
the
thing is, David didn't speed up. David's run laps starting with after sled push 324, 329, 328, 324, 326. So he was steady. Sandy was just fading right there.
And those are phenomenal run times. Little short run, we know that, but those are still phenomenal. Even if you add 10 seconds to that, running 3:30s late in the race is really, really good.
And this is where Sandy, going into the lunges, still makes an effort to catch up to Dylan. Like, still is fighting. So shout out to him. You know, dude is tough.
What do you think Kent's thinking right there? He's a minute 35 off the lead, and he's got lunges and wall balls left.
Fuck my life. This fucking sucks. That's probably what he's thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be thinking.
He's still got 20 seconds on 5th.
Yeah. He's still hanging on.
Look at that. He's got a minute on win.
And he ended up 8th or 7th?
7.
So 7th. At this point, he's over a minute ahead of 7th.
Jeffrey Voisin ends up beating him. Right. Yeah, he's a minute and a half.
But it's the worst station to come into, correct?
Mm-hmm. And I'm still yelling at Kent, telling him, like, Sandy's in front of you. We have no idea what's going to happen to him. Like you're probably not catching David and Dylan. They're feeling good, but Sandy could come back. Like, you need to move on. And then
So go back to lunges in real quick, Rich. So you've got a 7-second lead from first to second, and second and third are literally tied. This is very similar to what we were seeing at the Farmers Carry for the women's race, where Michaela, Lauren, they were 1 second apart from each other, and Meg 1 second off from each other. So we had deep podium battles 3/4, 4/5 of the way through the race.
Even Farmers in. Look at this. It's only a 6-second spread, and Sandy's winning. So Farmers Carry was where the final move was made on both races. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. It's not a throwaway station. I should probably start practicing more. The Jack
You were
Bauer
fast
method.
this weekend, Rich.
I can help you. Yeah.
I was struggling to recover at your Farmer's Carry pace.
it was go time then, PK.
It was go time.
And then, this is pretty much just the race, right? After Lunge is out, Sandy's back a little bit, Mobile's in. Dylan, what do you do if you're Dylan here? Like not in this race in particular, but where do you beat Makita here? Or where do you, like in the next race, like how we talked about with Lauren's race strategy, with whatever else is going to do. If you're Dylan, where's the time?
David's faster. You'd think it would be on the run for Dylan, but David was faster every single time and he didn't crack ever. I don't know. Rower?
I think you have to extend the timeline out. He hasn't taken and I don't know his training, but it seems like he hasn't taken the periodized step-based build. He's drawn out like, I'm going to train everything all the time and just progressively work my way up, where he doesn't seem like the type to throw in a block of, I'm going to get super intense on running prior to this. Like he's just going to keep creeping forward better and better and better. In like a year or two from now, could be a minute better than everyone. But I don't know that he's the type to just jump lanes and go all in and try to make a jump now. And maybe I'm way off base on that.
So you think it's training based?
Yeah, I think it's time based. I think he's just going to keep chipping down everything all at once. Like, I don't know if he's a focus on one skill guy and drop 20 seconds on this one thing. It's almost like everything's going to be 3 seconds better next time and 5 seconds after that.
Right. So yeah, it's just more of a time. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because I'm looking at it too. It's like, does he have to do what we talked about with Lauren? Does he have to sell out on a run where he might not want to?
The question is, does he have to at all? Well, can David replicate that
has
again?
To. I mean,
can David do it again?
Changing.
I don't know.
Does anything jump off the paper with Dylan as far as glaring holes, or is he only slower on the first few stations because it's energy management, which I'm assuming it is, but are there any glaring gaps there?
No. His
I'm not he's very generalized. Yeah, I'm not sure if he could push a sled in 2.5 minutes like Sandy. I'm not exactly sure if that's on the table.
Smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is a good sled with him.
I wonder if
he won the race. That's Dylan. Just he maintains.
I wonder if like 5 weeks before championships, if he just cut his volume in half, like did something specific, if he'd had like a 2-notch leap in performance, or if he just wouldn't even know what to do with himself and it wouldn't even be effective. If he's one, because he's doing the equivalent of like, he's doing the equivalent of like 150, 180 mile a week running. Like if you brought him to 80 before a marathon, would he suddenly just be out of this world with energy, or would he be sluggish? I don't know what type of athlete he is.
I was thinking about that same thing too. And like, you hate to make any assumptions or conclusions based off how people train. And Dylan's gotten himself to this point, built himself to this monster with his specific methodology, but you figure he's got to be a little tired. A little tired of like a little bit.
You may not even know it.
That's what I mean. When you train this much, like you probably don't. We talked about this with Chris a lot, right? Like if she would just chill out, and we saw her at the OCR World's 15K, there was no 100-mile race before that, and she was able to run with Lindsay, right? Mm-hmm. Like, would that happen with Dylan? Would there be like a pop there that he could do something with? But maybe not, because he's never really able to access that during training. It's like,
Yeah. His post was interesting after the race. Did you guys read that? I just started following him.
No, what it said?
Said that his life focus is shifting and that this may be his pinnacle. And I believe I'm not mistaken it for anybody else. I'm pretty sure he had said that there's other life things going on, and this has been the most he's been able to focus on this, and this. Maybe it won't be, but maybe it will be the best he's capable of. Didn't you read all that?
Well, he's going to be a dad here. And like, I don't follow him on Instagram because I'm just like this. I don't need this. I don't need these workouts up on my grill all the time. I'm not trying to sit here and think about my methods because Dylan Scott's out here doing 80,000 meters.
It says it's a really well-written post. And the back half of it says with, little fella coming any day now, I recognize that this might have been my peak as an athlete. and that mentally I need to accept that to be a great dad. I am much more scared of the next few months than I have ever been for any race or event I have ever lined up for. And I know the priority shifts that I'm going to have to make to do this right. So if this was me at my best, I have at least exceeded my expectations that I may have had as an athlete a decade ago, and I am somewhat satisfied with that. And then he just says, as a lead up to the Worlds, I'll need to find a way to adapt and overcome it. I have nothing but love for all the people who helped me. Anyways, he goes on to say, like, hey, I'm at a shift. Now, that's what I'm getting at, is that shift might be good for him.
I think he's expecting. I don't think he's like that post sounds one way, but from talking to him, I think he's expecting to like still be able to bring it. And maybe he has to put in some intensity. Maybe he has to put in speed block. Yeah, I think you're right, Kurt.
I think it might help. But I was actually getting at the fact that the opposite of what he's
look at Ryan Kent
thinking.
When
I agree.
When Basin was born, he kind of had to do a shift and really be intentional with his training, and he probably had his best season yet with Deca.
Dylan might have just moved out of the world's longest, weirdest base phase. He's about
5-year base phase.
Yeah, he's about to just launch into the next
5-year
stratosphere
speed
of
phase.
fitness.
The real long game. He's gonna shift the way everyone thinks about training. This is our who would be an example of this? Like Sebastian Coe. He's the Sebastian Coe of our generation.
Yeah, maybe.
Jerry Lindgren.
Jerry Lindgren.
All right.
You just need to spend from 20 to 25 building base in the most outside the box way possible. That's it.
It's too late. Too late for us.
I'm going to do it from 40 to 45.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Kids are going to be out of the house.
It's your time.
Your kids are going to be out of the house when you're 40.
I don't know. Again, why do we always harp on math here? Let's see. Our youngest is 5. So 13 years from now, I will be 38. 48.
You'll be 50.
You'll be 38.
48. At 48, my kids will be out of the house.
You'll be Colderosa. There you go.
I'm going to, just equally bald, much more pale.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to get less bald. So
never know.
We don't want to put you in a box.
My high level salary and the advances in modern science.
Yeah, that's a good point. Exactly. Okay, so let's wrap this thing up. Let's look at our predictions first. Kurt, you picked Sandy for 3rd. You picked Dylan for 2nd.
That's right, I did.
Nice job, dude. I picked Sandy for 3rd. Dylan for 2nd. Nice job, me. Kent for 1st. Dylan for 3rd. BK. Alex for 2nd. Kent for 1st. Bad job. Jack, you were Kent. Alex, Dylan. Bad job. Kurt. I think Kurt got the best prediction week.
Yeah, I think I did. I'm the smartest one here.
He's a fan of the sport. He's in this.
I don't know. Weekend.
What's the hardware store?
Menards.
Couldn't even leave.
Pour on the men's prediction, pour on the women's, and I missed the award ceremony on Saturday.
You sure did.
Like I struggled with all podiums.
Shot. Yeah, they weren't even.
Were you doing the live feed then? Was that the problem?
No, I had 3 athletes racing at the same wave. Or within
he was like, I'm going to go out and watch, but I'll be listening to the podium. Like, you take 10 steps away from the podium, you can't hear shit. I went and tried to go find him, and I was like,
I thought it was the big DJ would be like, and we're starting awards. Not for age group.
Nope.
They're
not even close. Nope. So what do we got on the running public this week? We talked that we're going to in-depth analysis of doubles. I heard is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Don't worry about the next episode.
And stay tuned for the next episode.
Nothing lined up for Friday's interview yet.
That is a gross oversimplification of things.
Could be an interview. Could be a Q&A. We'll wait and see.
After all these years and all the Q&As, they're still our most downloaded episodes. Like, you think eventually somebody wouldn't click play, but they still do. So.
I'm telling you, this short form, people are going back. My weekly downloads are like way up instead of like interview, because people will skip interviews sometimes, but when it's just like people come in and re-listen. So got another short one about the sled push, kind of what we talked about here. Looked at some of the numbers, talked about, does it really matter? Like, what should you do for it? What's that mean for training? And I'm going to talk to, I think
you can dress this up however you want. You're phoning this in. You get whatever window dressing you want. Oh yeah, my weekly downloads. And no, you're not even trying anymore. You stopped booking guests. Now you're just repeating topics.
I was on the
booking
plane on the
Rich
way
Ryan
home.
as a guest a lot.
I'm available for interviews now. Look, I have a whole note piece that I'm preparing. Okay, look at this prep for the sled push thing. I was on the plane.
You're taking the lazy way out.
Yeah. Nope.
Those are all Eagles rants. That's what that is.
Oh my God. It could go on for, I'm done. NFL sucks. USFL, here I come. That's what I'm into now.
Yeah.
I have to look
I have a
at
request
the
for the
teams.
Listeners. So Kirk. Yeah. So Kirk watched Hyrox in a Menards parking lot. I want to hear some of the other places that people have watched OCR or hybrid. Like, let's hear what's the weirdest place you've ended up watching it because you're addicted to watching the live stream.
Should be some good ones.
Yeah.
I've watched in a deer stand as well, live streams. Sitting in a tree 20 feet above Mother Earth. I've done that before. Those would be my weirdest spots.
Do you have it on mute at that point?
Real low volume. Real low.
Yeah. Can't give it away. There's only 8 USFL teams, but there's a Philadelphia team. So there we go. Philadelphia Stars.
Who's your favorite player on the Stars?
I don't know. I have to. They're a great collective unit. Like watching the special teams, all three teams, all 3 units.
We're not just one player. All right,
yeah, you're a real sports fan.
The USFL. That's my thing now. All right,
Kirk's 35-0 prediction did not work out, but yeah,
man. No sports. I mean, such a good game. Not saying the Eagles would have won, but that's like a lame ending. That just
they probably would have lost on the game-winning drive, and that would have been satisfying for enough of the people.
Yeah, and I would be like okay with that. And like they were moving the ball the full game. It would have been great to see Jalen get a crack at it in that moment because he played absurd. He was really the best player out there. He had the best game. But
I was actively rooting for the Chiefs because of you. In case you're wondering.
Good. Yeah. Most people were rooting for the Chiefs because of people like me.
Yep. I don't know who I like less, the city of Philadelphia or Jackson and Brittany Mahomes. So I was really just rooting for Rihanna.
No, Travis Kelce's the worst.
Travis Kelce's my favorite player
since Ray Lewis.
Yeah, he's like trying to be like an NFL, like a WWE personality.
WWE
he's kind
wrestler.
of a douche.
He switches accents post game. It's very, very confusing.
Jason Kelce's the man.
Yeah.
Travis, douche.
Yep. Let's leave it at that.
All right, fellas. Did it again. Talk to you guys later.
Sports.